Oh, that was fast. Jump right into that one. Was there a countdown?
I did the countdown before the disclaimer.
Cool. I appreciate that.
Yeah, I think it actually flows better.
Yeah. And we're starting late.
Right.
I think everybody will know why as soon as they actually show up.
Right. Well, once I go to the 3-camera shot, they should see why we're running late.
Yeah. Coming to you live from the We the People Podcast Network. Welcome to this week's episode of the Politically Correcting Podcast with me, the Jose P, along with my co-host, Lavelle Lewis. Exactly. Austin on the ones and twos.
Hello.
We are your weekly dose of common sense. We also want to welcome our illustrious guest tonight, content creator, Tiara Grayson, and vocal outward. She shows up to speak to council. I was very impressed with your strength. That's what really stuck out to me, was how strong you came out in your convictions. So I'm really looking forward to having conversations with you tonight and seeing your insights on some things here, and hopefully we'll have a great conversation. I know we will. We're gonna start with diversity. Oh no, I'm so sorry. Let's toast to our ability to share a drink with friends, have open and honest dialogue, and always striving to walk away still being friends. Salud.
Okay.
Now we'll get into the verse of the week. Psalms 127:2. In vain you rise early and stay up late, toiling for food to eat, for he grants sleep to those he loves. This verse reminds us that our toil can be in vain if we do not trust in God. It is easy to get caught up in our own efforts and provide for ourselves, but this verse reminds us that God is the ultimate provider and sustainer of our lives. Rising early and staying up late to work for our provisions can be exhausting, but if we trust in God, he will grant us the rest that we need. By trusting God, we can find a balance between our work and rest and experience true peace and rest in him. Our well-being is solely dependent on our work, but on our relationship. Our well-being is not solely dependent on our work, but on our relationship with God. As we seek to honor God in our work and trust him for our provision, he will provide all that we need and bless the work of our hands.
Amen.
Everyone out there, shake your heads at this guy. Let's start the podcast off right with our video of the week.
That when it comes to illegal migration, you've seen it come down by more than 90%. Where did that number come from?
I was speaking.
is telling us the number is.
I hear you. I'm about to answer.
136,000 people more.
I'm about to answer you.
Year so
if the dramatics could come down just a little bit. If the dramatics could come down a little bit.
What's dramatic about asking a question about?
Okay, I'm going to answer. So I was speaking to the parolee program. As you know, the president put in place a parolee program to deal with certain countries on ways that we can limit illegal migration, and we have seen the data has shown us that it has gone down by more than 90%. That was what I was speaking to. No, we're gonna go. We're gonna move. Go ahead. We're moving, Peter. Let's go.
Yeah, so I'm not a big fan of blocking people who are questioning the current administration or any administration. I think everyone should be able to question the facts. You know, if you sit there and say that you've lowered the illegal immigration by 90%, I think it's pretty obvious that it has not been lowered. Have you been paying attention at all, Tiara? Tiara, this is Lavelle. Since you haven't been able to meet him.
How you doing?
Lavelle,
she just did.
Tiara, okay. What are your thoughts on the border? How are we protected? Do you feel as if we are doing the right thing with just allowing everybody in?
See, that's the thing when it comes to like immigration. My perspective of it is like drastically different. Like it's not even aligned to even, I'll say, like the modern liberal or the modern like Democrat, which even recently, like I've changed my like political affiliation to independent because I don't even feel that I don't feel like I align.
It's much better, right?
Yeah, like
it's comfortable.
And it feels like it fits at least the way I see it. Cause like when it comes to the border, like one, I think it's wild that people even refer to undocumented immigrants as illegal immigrants. Like, how do you reside somewhere illegally? Like, that's not even possible. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's like saying you being born is illegal. Me personally, when it comes to like that, I don't pay attention in the sense of like trying to see whether or not immigration, where undocumented immigrants are coming here, whether that is, decreasing or increasing. Like majority of the times when I look at immigration, it's like from a criminal justice standpoint, like,
Okay.
especially because most people push this like fallacy that immigrants has this like high criminality rate, in the United States, and that's just not true. So when it comes to immigration, like my perspective is drastically different, but I don't have an opinion on whether or not, it's increased or decreased.
So you're more of the opinion that we are a citizen of the world as opposed to a country or any borders?
I mean, I would say, at least on my interpretation of how that's defined, I would say yes, but it's along the lines of like you said, like we're humans. So it's like if people want to come here, whether it's for refuge or if they just want to come here, like I don't see like what's the problem, especially because of the fact that the same people who push this like this image like, oh, immigrants are coming here, illegal immigrants are constantly coming here, especially the Latin community, more specifically the Mexican community, but they push this fallacy like they're coming here illegally and all this other stuff. And then you got all these people that's like, oh, like what's going on? And they overlook the fact that the United States, like our government, our federal government has had numerous agreements with Mexico, which allow Mexicans to come here. And it's not even just Mexicans, it's other, countries. And so when we sit here and we complain about these people coming here, it's like, this is what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? Like, this is why a lot of us don't have employment, because they would rather go outside, you know what I'm saying? Because of the fact that they can, and when I say they, the people in power, the people, the
politicians, the electeds, or you think that there's a higher
bureaucrats, all of them, like the people that's making money off of it, because all of this is economic, like it's tied into the economy. It doesn't matter if it's immigration, education, all of it.
I think I agree with it being all tied to money. I feel like there's corporatism has kind of taken over a lot of our politics, to where decisions are being made solely on what's good for the big corporations, what's good for certain entities to take power in this country so that they can continue with their whatever the hell they want to do. But I feel like in this day and age, both sides, Democrats and Republicans, are kind of, they all got money in their back pocket by these big corporate entities that are dictating what they want in this country. I wanted to jump right into that.
Well, we can get even deeper on this conversation though. Like, I don't think we're doing it enough justice, because for the one part, right, the illegal side of it is, it's strictly about the laws of the land. I think a country should have laws or some form of legal system in place for someone to come into the country legally, right? So
like we can't go to straight to Canada and not go through a process.
No, even Mexico, right? Even I don't see too many illegal. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a lot of illegal immigrants into Mexico.
Going into Mexico?
Yeah. I mean, if it's easy for them to come in, I'm pretty sure it's easy for, folks to get out, right?
I think during COVID, a lot of people were escaping. I talked to actually someone down in Puerto Vallarta that came from America down there because their laws were more relaxed when it came to COVID.
Right.
So he overstayed his visa that was supposed to be 6 months. And then he was like, well, I got to fly back every 6 months for 1 day to come back to America, to then go back to Puerto Vallarta to be with his girlfriend that he found there, his baby mom that they ended
Why not, right? I guess it's easy, right? It's whatever you're escaping from, whatever country, you're going to make that decision, whether it's rational, irrational. You're going to go through the whatever channels you go through to get your family out of whatever. But my whole thing with the whole immigration part, right, the illegal immigration, is human trafficking. Like, we talk about this all the time on the show. A lot of folks that I feel are on the left side don't talk about this issue at all. Like, if we were a country that supposedly abolished slavery, back in the 1860s, why are we still having issues with that right now, with human trafficking, sex trafficking, child trafficking? And when we don't have control of our borders, to me, it looks like the conversation is a cover for a bigger operation, which is, this is a big multi-billion-dollar industry, child trafficking, and we don't talk about it enough. And I think within the African American community, we don't talk about it enough because for some reason we're being distracted by a lot of these issues, especially like within just this argument. Yes, I am all for helping people who are seeking refuge from a specific country, right? Like that's part of the foundation of what, the
Who we
United
are.
States, who we are.
Absolutely.
However, if we are just openly letting everybody go, then we're just opening the floodgates to child trafficking, human trafficking,
Well, the
and slave trade.
The nefarious people will take advantage. Actually, they're talking about it in Congress right now.
Yeah.
We got the video about the unaccompanied minors getting lost in the system. Let's see. It's a TikTok video.
I love TikTok. The
Daily Absurdity.
The rabbit holes of TikTok.
Yeah, I love TikTok.
I yield back.
So this is their actual conversations.
Mr. Swalwell.
Thank you. Ms. Rodriguez, welcome and thank you for coming today to testify. Ms. Rodriguez, were you at the Capitol on January 6th?
This is about unaccompanied
Was I
minors
at the Capitol?
Yes.
at the border getting lost in
No,
the system.
sir. I was on the premises outside of a reflection pond waving a flag.
So you were on the Capitol grounds?
I'm not sure if that's technically Capitol grounds. I was near the street.
Is this your tweet right behind me at 3:05 on January 6th, 2021?
I really do not know. I
Are
can-
you at Secure Border TX?
Yes, sir.
Can you see that picture?
I can.
Did you go any farther than where you were in that picture?
No, sir.
Did you ever cross any police barricades on January 6th?
Not that I'm aware of.
Did you ever see any violence on January 6th?
No, I did not. I did see a red flare go up. I don't remember the time, but that was about it. I did not encounter any violence. As a matter of fact, it was quite peaceful. I was involved in some prayers the day before.
So January 6th, over 150 officers were injured. One lost an eye, one lost a finger, one lost a life, but you didn't see any violence.
No, sir, I did not. That was not my experience.
You agree, though, that violence against police officers took place that day?
Sir, I'm not quite sure what this has to do with the exploitation of children, like the young girl who wore this band.
Sure. I guess, you were called, you publicly tweeted this, the majority knew that you were on the Capitol grounds on January 6th. And so, your credibility is, just as every witness, including the Democratic witness, is fair grounds for questioning. And so I guess my question is, you are aware that violence took place at the Capitol on January 6th.
That's what the media says.
Okay. Do you believe the media?
Inherently, I do
No,
not.
about January 6th.
About January 6th, I can only go by my personal experience. And I absolutely, if waving a flag and praying outside
You can stop
of
right
the
there.
Supreme Court
This
and
is literally
saying,
about child
so-
trafficking.
Who's the guy asking the questions?
Can you rewind that so we can see his name there? But this is a legitimate conversation that needs to be had. We are losing children. How many children was it last year? How many kids were lost in the system?
Oh, was
last
it in
year?
the CPS?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
it was in the tens of thousands.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
And the key, my issue is this is a legitimate issue. I'm not saying that January 6th wasn't a legitimate issue either, but why are we talking about two different things when we're supposed to be talking about kids that are being lost at the border? So you said that we should be there to harbor those in need. And these kids are being trafficked into this country by nefarious people on both sides, both disgusting people. But when they're being questioned, they're talking about January 6th. To me, it's like, that's the problem with politics.
That's 100% gaslighting right there.
Yeah, 100%.
He was gaslighting on every single question. And the manipulation comes into play where you'll see this on CNN, right? CNN will cut this, splice this and feed it to a group that anytime you mention January 6th, they're like ready to jump out the window. They're like, yo, oh my God, the world's about to end.
Again, not downplaying January 6th at all. We care about our kids. We either care about our kids or we don't. We care about the children or we don't. My issue is in politics. This is what I'm trying to say to everybody there who watches and who's involved and speak to council, showing up to try and speak to people. Politicians don't freaking care.
No.
Like they're too busy trying to grandstand and trying to make themselves out to be something else. I'm just tired of it. And we got a lot of issues happening here locally that doesn't supersede this by any means. But we have locally, there was at an intersection in my district on Lake Ave and 104 where some people were gunned down. Did you see that?
Yeah, that was crazy.
So a vehicle it pulls up next to this other vehicle, and there was a group of 5 people in there, I believe, and lit it up with gunfire. Now, the issues in the city are plenty. One of the biggest issues is people don't feel safe. It says gunman opens fire on vehicle at busy Rochester intersection. 3 people were shot. Thank God no one died, but they were at a red light, sitting at a red light. It was a 21-year-old woman and 2 18-year-old men. Do you know people in the city who've been shot or who are involved in the plentiful houses that have been shot at? Or do you have any insight into what's happening in our city that maybe other people don't?
I mean, I don't think my insight is any different from the next person. And to answer your question, like I know several people who has lost their lives to violence, especially gun violence. However, for some reason, people want to focus on like regular people, being presumed to be involved in violence, especially gun violence. But then one thing we overlook numerous times is like violence that's inflicted upon people by the police. Like I have 2 friends that I literally went to school with who lost their lives to the police like a couple of months apart. You know what I'm saying? And so,
can you elaborate on that?
Yeah. Mark Gaskill, he was the gentleman that was, I want to say it was May of 2020. He was allegedly, like, apparently from what the cops said is that they heard gunshots in this area on Lowell Avenue. And when they came over there, his vehicle was like on the scene or something like that. So they pulled him over to question him. And
was he in the backseat?
Yeah, he was in the backseat. Yeah. He's the guy who like, it actually gave like friction to Free the People Rock because they've been so involved in like police, violence and all this other stuff on the city. But then they kind of they straight up turned a blind eye to Mark Gaskill because he phenotypically doesn't look black. He passes as what most people had presumed is white. When they seen his family, they saw white people. So they're just like, and on top of the fact, these weren't wealthy white people. Like this is that's, in my family, my mom's half white, and the white side of our family is what many people would call white trash, which is exactly what, Mark Gaskill's family is. They're poor white people who are ignored, and they're like hidden in this like mass of like focusing on black. It doesn't matter if it's crime. It doesn't matter if it's rehabilitation, providing services. The focus is always black. And so, to answer your question, I do know people who lost their lives to violence, especially gun violence. However, I don't take away from the police side either, especially because of the fact that that's not even accumulated in the data of gun violence.
Yeah, you can't turn a blind eye to it, but you can also tackle both issues at the same time. Within your assessment of that police side of the problem, the violence, because we see the data on the gun violence side, someone losing their life out within the streets, right? Just for that simple, that situation, it's broad daylight, 104 Lake Avenue, and they just roll up and start shooting at somebody. Within your assessment, what is like the percentage? How high of a problem is it? Like, do you think it's like 90% and just like it's so crazy and out of control that we don't talk about enough? Or is it like, 50? Is it 50% of the police officers you feel, have a checkered past or a situation where they should not be on the force because they're a bad cop? Like, where do you kind of see that number personally?
Well, when it comes to crime specifically, like I'm not those people that has this like high perception of crime. Like I know it doesn't it's not what people perceive it. And when I say people, it's mostly media because this is where people get their their information from. I mean, like you said, with politicians, they utilize propaganda. It was one of the things that got Trump elected. It's one of the things that got Malik Evans elected is that they invoke fear upon people and they exaggerate data and they focus on literally like what they consider like outliers in crime data, and they make it seem like they exaggerate it as if it's like always always happening, and it's not the case. Like I currently live on Seneca Parkway, like Dewey and Seneca. I have no problem with putting that out there. I live literally like 2 streets up from McGee, a street or 2 up from McGee. That's an area that they continuously say it's crime ridden. There's always this gun shooting this. It's not. I live there. I'm constantly walking that area. I walk my dogs. Even when I don't, like, I hang out in the community. I cook food for them, like people that's hanging out, even if it is like the typical, street dealer or the typical street solicitor. Like I interact with these people. So my views on our community doesn't reflect like how media portrays it. Like especially because it's not only coming from experience, but it comes from 6 years of studying criminal justice in college, and then actually like seeing the data and seeing how it aligns to my experiences.
So being the representative for the Northwest District, and you reside in it, and the issue they brought up with Mark Gaskill, that happened in my district, I have to push back on that because even Letitia James, the Attorney General, said that the police were in the right. So just to give some information out there, it happened at 4:22 a.m. Off of Lyle Avenue. 4:22 a.m. A police officer heard the gunshots. It was found on the gunshot spotter. The blue light camera people, who I know the people that actually work there, they look at the camera, and there was only one vehicle that was leaving the area. That was the vehicle that the police pulled over.
How many cameras you said?
Oh, there's tons of cameras in that area. And so they pulled that vehicle over. That person was found to have the gun, the illegal gun that did the shootings. So, I mean, not that he needed to die. I'm not saying that. But that was a person. We can't make that guy out to be a martyr by any means. But, I mean, the gun was found to be the gun that did the shootings.
Yeah. But they say that it's guns, but his family wasn't even informed, like even after he was killed. And this is the crazy thing about it, because the police they weren't even aware. Like as soon as Mark was pulled over by the police, he went live on Facebook. Like I'm in Phoenix, Arizona, watching my homie live, and I'm just like, like, oh dang, the homie that got pulled over by the cops is kind of weird. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like late, and then with that area and the way that I know that the police is set up, like you say that it's 4:20 in the morning, it's Lyle Avenue, like that's prostitute district. Like it's never empty over there. Never. I smoke weed. If I'm up at like 1, 2 in the morning, I'm riding all the way through there because there's several stores that's open past 12 in the morning. And so like if I just so happen to go to a store just to get a blunt wrap, because that area has already been deemed a crime spot, you know what I'm saying? And it's already deemed as hot with having all this crime, prostitution, violence, and all this other stuff. It subjects me to interaction with the police. Like that's the whole, stop and frisk. It gives it's such a small burden of proof that allows them to stop me. Like it's just this, like, oh, I have a suspicion.
Yeah, I'll agree with you. I'll agree with you on with that, because I am a proponent of, having your Bill of Rights. You should feel comfortable in your possession. So if you're in a vehicle, you should feel comfortable with a police officer. If they were to pull you over for any reason, you should feel confident that that person is going to adhere to the law. I'm not fully aware of what happened once they pulled him over. All I know was they saw the gun, they asked him to pull out, and everything went south at that point. And I do know that Letitia James, who is a Black Attorney General, stated that they did the right thing. So I have to go with the law on this one, right?
Yeah, and
I mean, I don't just go with them because of their status.
Oh no, not
like,
no.
I mean,
you can't do that.
Is wrong
You definitely
too.
can't do that either. I think there has to be an element of critical thinking, number one, and I think within our communities, we do get caught up with the perception whatever reality that you're in, right?
Mm.
So if you can be comfortable walking down, or going down Lowell Avenue at 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the morning, until something bad happens to you, right? At that point in time, no matter who it is, whether it's police officers or somebody within the streets, right? Let's not, dismiss the fact that crime does happen. Like
It does. It's just like I'm saying, like it's exaggerated.
Well, I don't think you can exaggerate 80 murders last year. You're not exaggerating that point.
Well,
we're not
outliers.
There's no exaggeration
of what it looks like on average. Like if you
I'm not even talking about average. I'm talking about solid numbers.
That's like me focusing on 1990. I could say
there
was way more murders in 1990 in Rochester than there were currently. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, it was the
that's
height
not indicative.
Absolutely. It was the absolute height of murder last year, 2 years ago, actually all throughout COVID. But in the last week, we've had 17 people shot. So, I mean,
that's
does
a high
happen.
number. It's within 2 weeks.
1 week.
That's somebody getting shot every day, or 2 people getting shot a day. There has to be some level of accountability that needs to be recognized by everybody. Well, if you're going to be comfortable with glossing over factual information of someone losing a life, I have been in a situation where I got that phone call of a loved one being shot or being killed by a blunt object in the streets, minding their own business.
In my district as well.
Yeah, the one was my younger brother, first younger brother. He was on Emerson and Dewey.
Yeah.
My other brother was on Frost Avenue. Again, never thought in a million years that I would get that phone call, but it happens. And it happened to me twice. So when I hear someone within the city and I see those numbers rising, both of my brothers were part of that statistical stat of.
And my nephew, he was the one that was shot 9 times in Irondequoit. Just because someone wanted to steal his stuff.
But when they say your nephew was shot in Irondequoit, they don't focus on Irondequoit. They throw that with Rochester.
You got to look at again.
They'll blame Rochester for that.
Yeah, they'll blame but
they make Rochester look messy because you got these outside people that don't want no attachment to Rochester until it's beneficial. But then when it comes to crime, we not a part of it. We're Webster, we're West Henrietta. But as soon as they do some wild stuff, they dumping it on Rochester. And that, like you said, I'm not taking away nothing that about crime happened. My cousin Latasha Shaw Grayson was murdered on Driving Park and Dewey in 2007. She was the woman that was stabbed repeatedly.
And no one stopped it.
Nobody. And people just kept driving over the whole, ordeal. Like I grew up like fighting. Like I grew up defending my brother because he was constantly getting jumped. I remember like several nights where my dad would literally call up our family member and they would scout out our house because like, local drug dealers, we had like straight up like beef. It was on some weird, like if something happened, we need family, because at least in our family, the legal cynicism is high. We don't trust the police. Like it doesn't exist. And so when it comes to like handling a lot of our stuff, we'll handle it on our own unless it's like, it's almost too big to handle. You know what I'm saying?
Well, you gotta go somewhere at some point, but again, as far as within the community sense, right? However, we're going to be able to change so that you and, folks like yourself and myself and Jose and anybody that
even Austin.
Excuse me?
Nothing.
I mean, hopefully no one within your family has, either lost a life or been,
So I guess I'll throw in my 2 cents. So I was born and raised in Webster. And so I have not really had any
technical difficulties with the crime and the law.
Yeah, no.
Either side.
No. The only time I was held up at gunpoint was in Rochester on Mount Hope Ave.
Oh, Mount Hope. Dang.
Yeah.
Were you by the
but the cemetery is right there, so it's a quick transfer over.
Much easy. You're a mark.
Yeah. I was working at Game Craze, which
that's why they came back.
Yeah. You look like you worked at Game Craze.
Yeah. So that was I've told you this story, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think we, the trust within the police department, it's important to to find the right people within the force and put them in positions where they can reach out to the community and make sure that there is some level of transparency.
I don't think she's going to agree, because I know an email that she sent out regarding this exact issue.
Well, that's fine. I'll get to my next question within that, right? Because the handling it on our own part, that
I'm with it.
Yeah,
I'm with it, but you have to allow me to use my guns.
Yes, right,
my legal
exactly.
guns.
If you're going, I have no problem with anybody legally bearing a weapon that's going to protect themselves.
Right.
Whatever you can do to protect yourself, and it doesn't matter. It could be a crooked cop. It could be a citizen within the streets. If you're protecting yourself, the most important piece within this whole thing that we have within this country is our legal system. Now, for the misperception that's out there that if you are black or colored, or a minority, you're going to get the book thrown at you. That's not true, because within both of my cases, they serve less time for the actual death aspect of my brother's deaths, and serve more time for the illegal action, the illegal weapon, the blunt object, the misdemeanor charge within that. That is what that's the only thing we have that can like protect us, period.
Well, I'm a big fan when citizens not just come forward with the issues, but also come forward with a resolution. How do we fix it? And you did in your emails talk about creating a whole new department staffed by citizens in RPD. Can you elaborate on that? Because that is something that I've been working on for literally over a year, since I believe Lovely Warren, actually. It was me and Mary Lupian, Councilmember Mary Lupian. We do not agree on very many things.
That's one you got.
We agreed on something that is going to take away some of the responsibilities of police to kind of alleviate the administrative duty. So you want to elaborate on your view of it, because I've have some actual experience in this, but I want to hear your side of it.
Okay. So
what would you do to fix it?
Before I go there, I want to circle back to the immigration thing just briefly, because again, and this is why I say like there's no such thing as illegal immigrant. It's just undocumented. It's the 14th Amendment. Like, I don't know it verbatim, but it mentions the naturalized citizen, which includes immigrants, undocumented and documented. And it says that as long as you basically reside in a state which is under this, government, this federal government, not only are you like under the jurisdiction of that state, but of that nation as well. And you have the same like citizen, like rights as a citizen, even as a naturalized individual. That's why I said it's the 14th Amendment. But to answer your question,
I thought the 14th Amendment was most about the right of pursuit of happiness.
No, you keep on going. It's talking about you can't.
All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws.
Right.
Which is what makes it possible for people to fight for immigration rights.
Well, it says persons born or naturalized in the United States. So it's
and when you look up the term, like even when you look up the case studies, no, not naturalized. Even when you look up the historic landmarks, like it breaks down. When I say the court defined what they meant by naturalized citizen, which included the undocumented and documented immigrant. It's like as long as you reside in the U.S., you're considered a citizen.
Okay.
But to answer your question about the police force thing, it's more of like the administrative work. So like there's ample amount of articles that's out there, research that's showing that police officers are making like boohoo money, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in just overtime. And that revolves around like administrative work, them filing paperwork. It has even been rumored where there has been like unconstitutional or unlawful practices where police officers are intentionally prolonging their administrative work to get overtime. And so
that's because of bail reform. They're required.
A lot of reasons, but yeah.
And would you not, if you were in that position? And
no, I mean, me personally, again, that's why I said you can't depend on me, because my views of money, like I literally could live off the land with nothing. Like I'm on some, like
Yeah.
I have a homestead at my house. Like I
what's up.
literally, I could be reduced to not having no house and I could survive. Like,
Okay.
I'm good. But-
First of all, I love that part right there.
Yeah, I can hunt, do it all, grow my own herbs, handle everything.
Oh,
But,
government's coming after you after this one.
I
Yeah, they don't
mean,
like that.
they could try, you know. I
You
know
harvest your own
Jesus,
water.
everything.
Oh, they're coming after you
Oh,
now.
they
Yes.
don't want that.
Yep.
They definitely
Yes.
don't want that.
And then it's funny you say that because like at the next city council meeting, I got some environmental stuff for them. So
All right.
we going on that. But yeah, it's basically just to lighten up the workload on top of the fact like we're just dumping way too much funds into the police. And a lot of stuff is going into militarizing them and increasing their salaries, which I think is crazy that here in the city of Rochester, RPD is the highest paid police department in the state of New York outside of New York State Police. Like they make almost the same amount of money New York State Police make. The only difference between them is that the New York State Police requires you to have a bachelor's degree. You could be fresh out of high school and be making $100,000
Are you
with
earning the
RPD.
base pay
Wait,
though?
whoa, whoa,
Because that's the difference right there.
It goes up periodically.
Right.
I looked at the contract,
Right,
at
right.
least the one that expired in 2019, but was still active until like early this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm basing it on
because
that.
the base pay is pretty similar to other cities in New York. It's that overtime that does push them above 100,000
Wait,
because
wait,
we
wait,
don't
wait.
have enough officers.
Why are we worried about their paychecks though?
They are putting their lives on the
Because
line.
The overtime, because their paychecks is what causes muddiness, right? So like,
How? They are doing
hold on,
a
because if
very
you're
tough job.
incentivized to do all this extra stuff because you know you'll make overtime. Here's the thing. So a police officer, Rochester police, they could shoot you dead. Like a police officer, if I'm a police, I can shoot you dead. This guy could start a whole protest for you. I will be the police officer, mother freaking overseeing that, ensuring that nothing goes out of, gets out of hand and all
And
that.
all you
And I'm
gotta do
getting
is go
paid
to civil
overtime
court like
right after.
Floyd did, and also what's his name? Prude, and your family getting millions of dollars from the city because
But that
you sat
doesn't
out in
change
court.
the fact that they're still performing like unlawful tactics.
Yeah,
like,
but again, it goes back to the number, right?
Well, unlawful
bad is
or
it?
immoral?
I mean, it's both. Most of these people call themselves conservative or Christians, yet Jesus is far from them. Like the Bible tells us that we shouldn't be so money driven, but yet, I mean, we live in a capitalistic nation. You
We
see
do.
what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So,
We do.
but this is one of the biggest nations that want to claim they're a Christian. You far from Jesus. The Bible tells us not to oppress the poor, yet that's all we do.
How do we oppress the poor today?
What do you mean we?
How? Well, this society. When I say we are part of the society. So within, how does the poor get oppressed? How are they oppressed?
Well, for one,
Start with Rochester though, because I really
Yeah.
want to make sure we keep it local because we have a ton of homeless people
right.
in this city. And a lot of people throw out the word poverty, and to me, poverty can really mean a whole spectrum of things because poverty in Africa is way different from poverty here and poverty down in Brazil.
Those
So-
Mercury, what are those mines they got going on over there in Africa?
Right. So so when it comes to here in Rochester, we've shut down a lot of the homeless encampments. Are you against that?
Well, I'll have to look more into it, but I don't like how we handle our homeless people anyways, because of the fact that we displace them, right? Most of them maintain in the city. And it's funny, you said that you're from Webster and we're talking about like how Webster seems so clean. And I had met this guy, his name Brandon, I forget his last name, but he was like, I call them street people because I don't never know their specifics. They could be homeless. They could be a drug addict. They could just be somebody that's in hard times asking for money. But this guy was hanging out on the street and it was like literally in the busy hour of like Hudson Avenue. And he was like asking for cash. And so I'm like, I don't have no cash, but I'll take you into Walmart since we right there by Walmart, get you whatever you need.
Oh, was he on the exit?
Yeah.
Oh God.
And
Oh,
is
they be
it?
deep over there.
Oh God.
And then it was a
At
white
Walmart,
dude.
It'd be
There's a lot of them over there now.
Yeah, that bears no. That has no like.
Well, continue.
Yeah,
But I'm saying, so like when I take him into the store first, like Walmart employees, they're like, no, he's not allowed. Well, it's not even Walmart employees. They're like the security guards. They like, he's not allowed here. They even called the cops.
Right, because he's stolen a couple times.
That's what they said, that he stole. And I'm like, okay, well, I understand that. But he's with me. I'm like, I'm trying to get him stuff, but I don't know what he needs type of thing. So they call the cops to speed it up. The cops come. And the cops is the one that tells me his name. Like, oh, yeah, we know this guy. He comes out of Webster. He comes from a very wealthy family.
Mhm.
But,
Mhm.
why do you even waste your time with it? And this is coming from RPD. Why do you waste your time with him? His own family don't even deal with him. And they got the money to help him. And this dude, they telling me like he was strung out on all these different types of drugs and stuff. And I'm
Right.
just like,
Yeah,
but
that's
your job
mental
is to
health.
protect and serve us. You see what I'm saying? So this is like further oppressing us, because like now you're displacing these people. He can't stay in Webster. His family's not taking care of him. So he comes to the city because we have more, access to services and stuff like that. Because
Or he can get away with it.
I mean, it's a lot of,
Because in Webster, you're not
stuff.
getting away with that.
No.
On top of the fact that we got adequate lighting. I mean, you could be homeless and don't have to worry about, you know what I'm saying, somebody running up on you in pitch black. But
yeah, and that is an issue. I agree that, if you're a homeless person, you shouldn't be, afraid of getting killed, which it did happen in
Right.
Open Door Mission, and they were in bed, right? Guys stabbed them multiple times. But at the same time, I know that life of having a family member who just refuses to help themselves, and the family
we
has
all got them.
Yeah, and the family has gotten to the point where we've helped them to the point where it's like they have to hit rock bottom on their own to figure it out. So at what point do we allow them to hit rock bottom versus what you're saying? Because you're saying that it's the police's responsibility to help them.
Well, I'm not saying it's the police responsibility. However, like they're connected. So like if there's no like what's the word? Like if there's no organization to deal with those type of people, the first person that's always called to handle homeless is the police.
Is the police, right?
So like what do you expect? Yeah.
Right.
Like,
so what's the alternative? What would you propose?
To provide more services that can like
we have the PIC team though. We have the person in crisis
but
team.
the PIC team is not.
We have the facet team as well from the county.
I mean, you could sit here and name a bunch of teams, but most of these organizations fall apart. Like most social services don't last long. Look at the furlough program. Look at education in the prison system. Like that.
Look at education in our city.
Yeah, like that stuff existed once upon a time. Now it doesn't. So like when it comes to stuff that's beneficial to people, and I feel like that will get people to like, hey, kind of pull yourself up. Maybe not to be rich, but at least to be a little better off. Those services are not funded, at least not for a long enough time. Like they might get a little funding, then it falls apart.
So I do not disagree with you on that, because the county, in my opinion, has been very stringent with their wallet when it comes to social services, which it is their job when it comes to mental health and social services. The PIC team, which is a city organization that started under, it was within 2020, I believe it is. Yeah. This new administration of city council, we created that because the county facet team was not answering those calls in the city. Mm-hmm. So we created a whole new PIC team to handle that. I'm not saying by any means they're perfect. I'm not saying by any means that they're fully funded to where I would say, yeah, they're the end all be all. But what I would say is there are plenty of resources out there for people who want them, but at the same time, there's not enough beds either. And that's on the county. Because if I were strung out on drugs and I tell the police, hey, look, I know you got to arrest me. Please take me to a place where I can get off of drugs. Right. The county has not provided enough funding for that. And a lot of people look to the city for that. We don't have the money for that. Right. Like we can't even, we don't have nowhere near the money for that. And it's on the county, but yet we keep voting in the same people who do this. They do a lot of this, right? Yeah. They talk about how they're for the poor. They talk about how they're for minorities. They talk about how they're for the homeless. Where's the money? Because all you got to look at is that right there. Where's the money? Show me. And to me, the county's not stepped up in the right way.
Well, even to take it a step further, as far as asking where the money is, where is the advocacy, right? Like, I think a lot of the politicians today, wherever the social climate is, or whatever the social arguments, discussion is going, a lot of these politicians,
the narrative of the day,
right? The narrative of the day. Yeah. These politicians will find one way to piggyback on it, right? But yet not really want to attack the issue. They try and find ways to trigger those emotions to get those votes to be on their side. Which to me is like a lot of the things that I see within just, the community and how I evaluate it, the mental health aspect of everything. First of all, the drug problem that affects every race. It's not just, it's just not just black. It's not just white. It's not just, it's everybody is affected by the drug aspect, the addiction aspect. So that's part of mental health. That's one compartment of mental health. The other side of it, just to bring that back up, my brother who passed in your district, there was a mental health
aspect to that.
Yeah. There was a mental health building right there. And my brother, he was his mental health issues, and this is the month of mental health awareness. And I always talk about him during this time because I do think about him a lot during this time. He was on his way to that facility before he just got, ran up on from behind and beat to death with a crowbar, right? For just being at the wrong place, wrong time, couldn't speak a sentence or anything. But I do know, within his life, he was always getting the hygienic harass for the police officers, not because they wanted to
The mental
do
hygiene
harm.
arrest.
Yes,
Yeah.
not because they wanted to do harm. They brought him home every time. It's like, hey, we're trying to keep him within, these four walls. You know what I mean? But
you can't.
You can't.
You can't.
He has the ability to go out on his own. So I think we do put a lot of pressure on the police department. The police department are the ones that end up being the scapegoat. But
big time.
The county itself, within just the Monroe County mental health facilities that they had that were poorly ran and are probably poorly ran now.
Oh, 100%.
I mean, a lot of the folks who are coming out of these institutions are just getting pushed out there and
like Daniel Prude.
Yeah,
Daniel Prude was kicked out.
Yeah,
it's like go out there. You've gone off your drugs. Now go ahead and get right back out there and do the exact same thing that got you here. What we can see here is what Oregon is doing with their homeless population. It's
bad over there, man.
Oh, it's really
California is even worse. LA is. Whew.
They submitted a new bill. It's HB 3501. I want to hear your insight on this one. It's sponsored by Democratic state reps, Farrah, whatever their names are. States that homeless people should be able to have a reasonable expectation of privacy in any property that belongs to them, regardless if the property is located in a public space. I have a problem with this because of what we're dealing with in a city where the residents are saying these homeless encampments are creating a hostile environment for our children who are trying to get on the bus, for just straight up walking to, especially you brought up Hudson and 104, where there's a ton of people who are just in and out begging for cash, begging for money. They've set up shop over there. They're under the expressway, which is completely terrible for anyone to live there. And then they set up shop along the bushes as well. And the high rises over there, which are all low income people, they all said, please get them out of there. Please get them away from us, because every single day we have to deal with them. And then Delta Sonic and Walmart both are telling us, please do something about this, because every single day we're either getting robbed or they're coming up onto our patrons and harassing them, like physically harassing them.
Figure it out, Walmart.
So that's messed up.
Figure it out.
They do have enough money.
Yeah.
So with this, I mean, this would be the opposite end of, okay, we can't police them, so we're going to allow them to do whatever. Is there a middle ground there? And do you see a middle ground where we can potentially help the homeless, help those in need, while also protecting the citizens who are tired of seeing that around their children and their families?
I'm always going to go back to the Bible. I mean, that's how I govern myself, love. Because honestly, like, what are you going to do with them? I mean, you push them away, and where are they going to go?
But the Bible is also about accountability too. Like, you're accountable for your own sins. You're held accountable to your sins.
Yeah.
And the Bible is not okay with you taking drugs. The Bible is, Jesus walked this earth and loved, but at the same time, he only helped those who came to him, right? He didn't normally go out there and find somebody to help.
Yeah, your circumstances don't give you a right to do what you want, though.
Well, not only that, it's because a lot of people use that, especially a lot of liberals, like the far liberals, they'll use that and say, God is love, right? God is love. So therefore we must love, but God holds people accountable as well. There's plenty of times in the Bible where he held an entire city accountable for.
But they had several chances to get themselves together. Like, they were informed several times. And,
right.
Abraham even interceded for them and said, Lord, if there's at least, and he started as like 50 and got down as if there's at least 5 people in there that's living righteous, would you save them? He said, yeah, but there was none. Right. So, like, yeah,
and then
God, he wants you to be held accountable. But he even tells us, like, it is written, where he says that if you sin and don't know you sin, like, you're not held to the same standards as a person who knows right from wrong and still does wrong. So yeah, you will be held accountable, but he always showed grace and mercy. Like it always go back to grace and mercy. That falls under love. So me personally, I'm gonna always say the same thing. Like, what are you gonna do with them? Like, if you don't, I mean, yeah, poor people, they're gonna complain about somebody else because at the end of the day, like, trauma comes down. Like the people that complain about you is usually somebody who thinks they a step above you. Like they just because you poor, it doesn't mean you're gonna see it from that poor person's perspective. I know people who were victims of assault, and when they talk about victims of assault, it's almost as if they've never experienced it themselves. It's like, how can you talk about victims of assault when you're a victim of assault? You know what I'm saying? So it's just reallocate funds that actually helps these people, and not just on some like singular time, like you just do it one time. Like this is something that has to be continuously funded, like how the police every chance they get, they push it for more funds. The same thing could be done in these other areas.
But what specifically do you want funded? What specifically?
So like when it comes to the drug stuff, like in mental health, because ideally, like all that stuff has an effect on you. Like research has even said poverty has an effect on your mental health.
Absolutely.
But yet we continue to increase the prices of stuff, but people's paychecks been the same for decades. Like there's no like livable standard of wages. Like people are really struggling. Even I know a guy who makes over $100,000 combined with him and his wife. And this dude lived paycheck to paycheck, equivalent to a person who makes like $10,000 a year.
80% of them, 80% of people, regardless of how much they make, live paycheck to paycheck.
Because that debt to income ratio is crazy. Like you're constantly
because the more you make,
buy, feed it to capitalism. Feed it to capitalism.
Wait, stop.
No, I know you're a proponent for capitalism, but
well, yeah, because
money is the root of all evil. That's the point.
The love of money,
the love of
and
money.
that's what's causing it.
Within just the argument of capitalism is the reason why people do what they do.
It's greed that's
greed,
that.
Right? And the term for capitalism is just, exchange of goods and services within an open market. If you have something that you have of value and people are willing to exchange, it could be money or it can be a barter and trade situation. That's still part of capitalism. That I think has absolutely nothing to do with a person's debt to income ratio and their inability to, for one, understand how debt is bad and how you can actually use it to your advantage, right? So I think that for me, if a family in Rochester,
and how do you get this knowledge to those people? Because there's a lot of people out here that got the debt, but they don't have.
There's a lot of books out there. There's a lot of information.
The library is free.
Hold
on, but we also have the Financial Empowerment Center. We have funded that with the city.
The city, right?
It's at every library.
There's
How
initiatives.
How do you tell people
that.
who's been generations deep into a certain financial status, like, oh, there's these services. Like, one, look at the amount of people that come to the city council meetings.
Yeah,
that's not even 1% of the city's population.
Actually, it was 1% that showed up to like BLM protests. That was 1%.
You see?
Yeah, but regardless, that has absolutely nothing to what we're talking about. You're not going to go to the city council for that information. That's not the government's job. That, like, we live in a free society. So within you as an individual, it is your responsibility to obtain whatever knowledge you need to support what you have around you. So within what you said earlier, I am 100% all up for living off the lay of the land, right? I could care less what the government does as far as its control over what they view as a healthy lifestyle as far as food, etc.
Because you have a privilege that most people don't. I could sit here and say the same thing as a person who owns a home, has an education, has money saved up in the bank account. Like, I could sit here on a high horse too, but at the end of the day, I still know where I came from.
It's not sitting
hold on.
Yes.
Speaking from someone who, like, many people know,
that's treading along to pull yourselves up by your bootstraps.
Absolutely.
Hold on,
because it was done before.
I was homeless.
What straps you pulling up?
Homeless. And I applied for, because I was literally living on cardboard and I was jumping from couch to couch, homeless. I applied for food stamps. They give you the automatic card, right? $250 on it automatically in the mail. Here, go buy some food because you're homeless. I looked at myself in the mirror and I cut it up. I refused to use it. What I did then was I chose and I said, what am I going to do now? What kind of person do I want to be? And I said, I don't know much about finance, but I want to get into the finance field. So I used YouTube. I literally watched YouTube videos for days straight, bought a used suit, like secondhand suit for
Mhm.
$25, got 3 interviews at banks, and Bank of America gave me the opportunity because they said, we're looking for someone with fire in their belly, with someone who has some grit to them that wants to help others. And I said, I want others to know that if I can do it, they can do it too.
Our ancestors been doing
YouTube,
it.
free.
You know, we think
But that, you can't say anything about that because it's not pulling myself up from the bootstrap. It's just taking accountability for where I was. It was my own fault for being in a bad situation, spending all my money.
Looking at it
But
from
hold on,
your
but what is
perspective,
wrong with
like
pulling
absolutely.
yourself up from the
it's like I
bootstrap,
told
though?
you, like all our journeys is different. Like I could sit here and say the same thing. Like our experience has been pretty similar. Like a lot of the stuff I learned was well, I won't say
Self-taught.
self-taught, but it was by the grace of God. You see what I'm saying? Like I ain't go to nobody,
Exactly.
YouTube, all that stuff.
It may have been God that said, this is your path.
But I'm telling you, talking to my family, because I would never forget, like, I think it was like 2015, me and my dad and my brothers and my sisters, we went to Jersey to visit family. And we in Newark. So it's like dilapidated housing all over the place. So I'm looking at everything. I'm like, yo, Dad, you know, why don't we all pull our money together? We can buy, some property, blah, 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 blah. And I'll never forget, my dad was like, T, like, you're smart, like you book smart. God blessed you to be a very intelligent woman. You can do that. But us, like, I don't like,
What kind of mentality is that though?
Well, I'm not gonna sit here and judge him because his walk of life was drastically different from mine. Like my dad grew up in the civil rights era, 62. You see what I'm saying? And he grew up down south. Like he had firsthand, like my dad, he has a prejudice towards white people that I will never like disrespect because
Was he
of the
Black Panther?
fact. No, it's his mother like died when he was a kid because she was sitting here, exhausting herself working for white people. Like he felt like he didn't get time with his mom being raising, her and his brothers and sisters because he was out here raising other people's kids. And then my dad was a sharecropper at the age of 4, up until he started to move around and he was, in the foster system and all that. So I look at my parents' experiences and other people and I see like, and even with my own, like, yeah, my life sucked. And like, yeah, I can sit here and be like, well, I made this decision. But at the end of the day, like, if it wasn't for my support system, I wouldn't have made it. Like, I'm like you, I'm an exception to the rule. I'm an outlier. But I will not sit here and say I did it on my own. Because even though my parents may not have the faith that I had at that time, like they still was a strong support system. I remember as a young kid telling my mom, I'm gonna be Dr. Tiara Grayson, with law background. And my mom used to be like, yeah, baby, yeah, I don't know if she really believed me, but she used to be like, she was down with it. Now I'm getting ready to pursue my PhD and going to law school next year. Like, so I won't take nothing away because I know people has experienced stuff that makes them at that time, it could be hopeless, helpless. Like people really do be going through. So I'm not going to judge them. It's like I said, it's easy to sit here and say like, I did it. You could do it too. But I don't know what you've been through. And I know it was a bit more like feasible for me to pull myself up and get out of this, even though I still went through a lot and still going through a lot. You know what I'm saying?
But that's the thing. Like what makes you special, what makes you great.
And that is special. And that is great.
And you can, like, for me, I do see it within each individual. It's just to know how and want to.
Well, not only that, you had like you said, you had essentially the backbone to kind of push you forward. Now, what about these families that have these sons who are just, they're tired of helping that person because they don't help themselves?
Or they're exhausted because I had the luxury of growing up with both parents. Like my parents were broke. My dad was on disability. My mom worked entry-level jobs and she had no high school diploma.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like.
But they stayed together.
They did. And we struggle like hell. But a lot of time, even with my parents being together, they struggle. So if I see how hard my parents struggle as a couple, I can imagine that it's just as hard for a single mom or a single dad raising kids. You see what I'm saying?
Actually, for a single dad, it's equal to having both parents in this country. Your child is less likely to come out in poverty if you are a single dad. It's like very similar to a single dad and 2-parent household. It's really it's a single motherhood where they are 75% bound to be in poverty.
That may be true, but I feel like there's some missing factors because if you take into consideration incarceration, well,
especially it's usually the man that's incarcerated.
Well, I'm saying like ideally a black man with no criminal record, he will lose employment over a white man with a criminal record. So with that,
that's
Google it. I can
Come
show
on.
you the research. I'm telling you, I used it in my capstone. But with these things that exist,
What's
like
a capstone?
it's the master's thesis. It's just another
See,
variation.
I'm uneducated. I don't know about that.
Oh, it's cool. But yeah, like it's one of those things where it probably exists to some degree, but I think it's missing a lot of factors. Like it's not looking at the big picture. But that's the thing with data. It don't look at everything. It's not
And anyone
exhaustive.
can manipulate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of the data is used to kind of keep Black people within that state of
I can see
mind where we're not inspired enough. We automatically see that ceiling and think, well, you know, since you think it's there's no way for you to break through.
Well, are you inspired by having a Black female mayor and a Black mayor?
No.
You're not inspired by that.
No.
So why do they keep using that to get people to vote for them?
Because it works for some people. To me, I feel like it's a part of like political propaganda. People have this misbelief that
Because they look like me.
representation, yeah.
Mhm.
And there's like, again, I go back to it, even though I'm not a stickler for research, but for the people who are science-based, like there's research out here that looks into racial bias, still exists, even with Black, you know, with having representation. Like they look, I can send you the article, but this,
Give an
like,
example.
so they had research, and when I say they, like this organization, they had tested, it was like hundreds of judges, and it was from the West Coast, East Coast, Midwest, and it was like from a blend of different areas, rural, towns and village judges, and even metropolitan judges. And they looked at Black and white, and of course, you expect, the racial bias was high amongst white people, but it also was high amongst Black people. Even though they didn't have as many Black judges as they had white people, it was still high. So like that, I'm not, and we see it like Malik Evans, I'm indifferent to him. Like I'm not those people that feels like, oh, we have a Black lawyer or a Black judge.
What can he do to persuade you?
Malik Evans can't do squat to persuade me. Like, honestly, I want to know several things. Like my mom said, where that hundreds of millions of dollars went that disappeared when he was, when he was still the president, a part of the school district. Why did he leave that vacancy? You see what I'm saying?
Say something's
He's
wrong with
supposed to
your
be the
microphone.
finance guy.
Gino, can you hear it now?
My microphone, can you hear me?
Gino says something wrong with your
Probably
microphone.
move closer to the mic.
Oh, might be it.
Oh, sorry.
So there's nothing he can do to.
No.
What is it that you look for in a mayor then? What would you look for in the next mayor? What would make you say, I'm going to go vote for that person? What are like the three topics that you would say, if they stand for this, I'm with them?
It's not even a matter of standing for nothing. Like, you can't just pop up and be like, vote for me. Like, that's not going to happen. And then even if we had access to like their track record, that's not enough for me either. Like, I'm human. So I go by, even the Bible, it says walk by faith, not by sight. However, I'm human, I'm flawed. So sometimes I walk by sight. And if I don't see you out here on a regular basis, like you can't pull an okie doke on me like a Hillary, you know, with the hot sauce and all, or the Biden.
You didn't fall for the hot sauce?
No.
No.
I thought it was
damn.
Freaking.
What about her dancing?
Not even with Biden playing Despacito. Like, I feel like that's desperate. That's desperate.
Did you vote for him? Did you vote for him to keep your color?
No, I voted for Joe. What's her name? Joe Jurgensen, the independent, or
I
forget.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that means you ain't Black.
Libertarian.
Man.
The libertarian.
I'll take it.
I know, because I
ain't Black.
When it comes to president, I almost always vote third party, because New York is always going to be Democrat. Like enough people are leaving where they're just not going to convert enough Democrats to conservative to say, let's really push the envelope. Because how many times has a Democrat came into New York and said, I'm here for change. I'm here to uplift the Black and brown community. I hate the word brown, first of all. It's Black and Latino community, in my opinion. I'm here to help the homeless.
You're Latino?
Yeah.
Oh, I was kind of shocked because at the city council, at the city council meeting, a Latin man came up and needed a translator, and y'all allowed the white woman to translate.
That's not what happened. Mary set up and said, I'm going to translate for him.
I was like, what is this?
Because she had been talking to him for the past whatever. And so she said it, and I looked over at Miguel. I'm like,
yeah, I'm like, we got two Latin.
I saw it in the crowd. Trust me. I sat there. You didn't see my smirk when I was like, okay, go ahead.
Okay, my bad.
No. It's all right, because a lot of people, I saw it in the crowd. Like, I saw people talking. And I'm like, I know what this guy's talking about. I don't need this white girl to tell me what he's saying. But She
That was
felt
strange.
she's the white savior.
That's what we got a lot of them.
Damn.
out there.
What are your opinions on Hochul? How is she doing as governor in this state?
I mean, I would say like it can't be that great because I don't really know much about her. Like
Okay.
the little bit I do see is on like Twitter, and that's like me intentionally going to seek her because for some reason her stuff don't even pop up on my algorithm. Like,
Mm.
yeah.
She came out with new bail reform, which
With the judges.
given the taking away the least restrictive method, so giving
Mhm.
them the opportunity to hold people who are obviously a danger to society.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on that?
That's a change of direction. A little.
Well, she's running for re-election soon.
Oh, well, are we going to get into the concentration camps too? I think we should after we.
I don't mind.
Well,
yeah.
do you know what he's talking about?
No.
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 Oh my gosh.
What
Well,
were
finish
your
your
thoughts?
point there, and then we'll go into the concentration
ahead.
camps.
We can go on COVID all day.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like torn on it because like I know the effect that mandatory sentencing and like 3 strikes you're out and all these like laws that they put into effect that kind of like took
White
the
Democrats did?
discretion. Yeah,
What white
that took the
Democrats did?
discretion away from judges. But to be fair, I don't pull the Democrat and stuff because I feel like they all in the same. But to be
That's good.
fair, that transition came from Bill Clinton trying to keep up with the Republicans. The nigga was trying to be, because they know like you gotta go up a level. When he came with that crime bill, that was him going up a level.
Wait, he didn't come up. Our current president, the one who came up with that crime bill.
Well, him,
And Joe
motherfucking Biden, yeah, all of them.
Joe Byron, that's Byron's baby right there. He stands on that, and we elected him.
The same guy that said that marriage is between a man and a woman.
98% of the African American community voted for him.
Mm-hmm. Well,
Lined up, 81 million.
they came out with a new budget, which they were able to pass the budget because Hochul said we're going to do some bill reform, which I'm going to tell you what the budget has in it. All right, so got a picture of her. I really don't like her.
She's the best.
She's a personification of an actual witch.
She is. I agree.
You can change the W if you want.
Totally.
The budget will also, this is what the budget will do. Raise the minimum wage to $17 downstate and $16 upstate. Now, are you cool with that?
No, I feel like it should be higher. But like when I talked to my
Higher?
wife about it, yeah. When I talked to my wife about it, she says she's just doing that because like all the other states did it. And
Do you
they
know what
don't
that
wanna
does
go
to a
extra.
business though?
I personally don't care. Like I am anti-capitalism. Like I heard that you guys are into real estate. Like I'm honestly your biggest enemy because I am pushing for regulation.
You just talked about raising money with your pops to buy some real
Right.
estate.
Yeah, but see, no, hold on.
Real estate
It's
has
different.
been around
Hold
since
on.
the beginning,
It's different
before
from
the term capitalism even
it's different from
created.
buying real estate to provide affordable housing versus buying real estate to make profit. I don't intend to make profit. Like me personally, I don't mind spending over and then not making that so that way
So have you
people
done
can
it?
have housing.
Have you done it?
I'm in the process of doing it. That's why me and my wife bought our house. We're moving.
Well, the issue is that
Wait,
there's a whole union, the tenant union, who comes to the city council to
Mhm.
talk about this all the time. And at the very beginning, like literally day one that I got into office, I met with them and I said, I can help you do that. I can
Mhm.
help you buy a building and rent it out at cost if you want. But I'm telling you right now, when it comes to if something goes wrong,
Right.
you don't have the money to fix it.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to figure out. What within the
You have to
providing
make
aspect,
something.
like the providing aspect, the purchasing part of the real estate, where are you going to get the money from?
Jesus, he's the same one that provided me the money with my house. I'll tell you, when me and my wife bought my house, it's this
While I
true
love
story.
that answer, while I
No.
love the answer,
You are not a man of faith. I'm telling
stop
you
it right now.
You must be like you claim Christian for religious purposes.
let's hear
Hold
what
on,
Jesus did
because
for
God
When
also wants action behind it. The
Yeah, I just wanna know
parable
what
of the
Jesus did.
talents.
Exactly. You got to walk by faith, but like you said, you got to bring action in it.
Right.
So here was my action. So I said, God, I'm ready to buy a house. I'm tired of renting.
Mhm.
Me and my wife, we've been paying like over $1,500 to live in an apartment. Yes, in an apartment. And I was like, if we can afford this for a year, we can pay for a house. So, and I've been like praying on this forever. I was like, Lord, by the time I turn 26, I want to buy a house. Literally, it was like 2 or 3 months before my 27th birthday, we closed on our house, but we have no money saved up, like absolutely none. But I still went out,
How'd you do
found a realtor and everything, walked by faith.
Where
When
did
it
down
came-
payment
no,
come
I'm
from? Hold on,
telling
no,
you,
we can't go by
When
that.
it-
We have
no,
to
I'm about
tell
to tell you.
people.
So when it
Yes,
came
the
to
people wanna
closing,
know.
it was pure prayer. I'm telling you, it's faith. because my faith was there. It said faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not seen. I knew I was going to buy the house.
That, but you have to
I
get
didn't
a loan.
have the evidence. I didn't have the money to buy it.
Where'd you get the loan?
So what I did, I kept praying. We applied for a VA loan. Like we had the
Who was in the
loan,
military?
but it was the
was in the military?
closing costs we didn't have. Me and my wife.
Yeah,
We were in the
thank
Marine
you for your
Corps.
service.
Thank
So,
you.
Wait. That is
you just blew up everything now.
That's a wonderful perk provided by the United States of America.
But the thing is that the only thing that they provided was the VA home loan, like the benefits that comes from that. But I still had to cover, like we still had to provide closing costs,
right?
Which the closing cost for our house was almost $12,000. We had $0,
right?
Literally the day, I think it was like the day before closing, or it might have been the day of, but I was at a VA appointment, and my realtor, she calls me and she's like, yo, T, I got some great news. And I'm like, okay, what's up? So I'm like, babe, I think this the call, because we just had faith. And so she tells us, she was like, the sellers are willing to cover the closing costs. So they paid our closing costs. We didn't pay squat.
Right. No, that's fantastic.
The people who sold us the house paid it.
That's a wonderful story of real estate, right?
How many years ago was that?
2019.
That's a beautiful story of real estate.
That is a beautiful story of real estate.
That's what happens when you walk by faith. I'm telling you.
I'm not in disagreement.
Jesus is literal.
You did action.
Yeah.
You put in action to get yourself to the position.
That's how I do everything.
Because your credit, was your credit good before that?
My credit was terrible.
Right. So did you increase your credit?
No. My wife, her credit was like okay at the time. So
so the VA doesn't really, VA basically stays 580 or better.
I think it's something like that.
I did mortgages before. I know all about mortgages.
Something like that.
So you need to get it clear to close. It didn't happen a day before. I get it. That there was a bit of storytelling there. I love it.
Keep it funky though.
But at the same time, you have to show you have funds to close, and you can't just pop out of nowhere. It has to be. They said either you're going to provide those closing costs, or we're not closing.
Well, my wife works a traditional like job, and she has a 401k. So it came down to like, oh, well, we'll go into our 401k type of thing, but we didn't even have to.
So she put money into a 401k.
Well, she's been, yeah,
that's action as well.
Yeah.
So
we didn't even know you can use that. Like we found all of this stuff out as we were going along with it.
Right. So
like,
your loans, I almost said loan soldier.
God bless you guys.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I would hope that more people can understand that the benefits of joining the military and then buying a home
joining
with
the
military.
I wouldn't sit here and tell people. Did you serve?
Yes.
What branch?
Army.
See, that's why. If you serve the Marine Corps, you won't be so quick to be telling people to join.
Yeah, Marines are definitely a different breed.
The Marines are. It's funny because my wife brought it up, and she was like, "Are the Marines like the hardcore people?"
They
I'm
are.
like, it's not that they're hardcore. It's that they usually couldn't join the military, the Army, so they had to join the Marines.
That's a jab at the Marines there.
I'm just talking shit.
The Marine Corps is like living in the projects. Like you literally,
you're the bottom. You're the bottom.
Yeah.
You're the bottom.
I never served, but
it was Air Force, Navy, Army.
I would have
Marines
served.
and quality of living.
Yeah, I would have served if Bush wasn't in office
I don't
back
blame you.
in '99. I was definitely not against. But I will say this for anybody, and I don't care what color you are. We need more people enlisted in the military.
Absolutely.
I do think that there are a lot of things you can learn. Number one is responsibility and accountability.
Thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank
you. And yes, appreciate you for the service. And the best thing though, I do think that the military provide is education support and also
GI Bill.
The GI Bill, and again the VA loans, right? A really good friend of mine, he was a former Marine. He talked about that
and health
every
insurance.
time, right? And
You got your VA health insurance, right?
Yeah.
Good.
He is in a real estate. He is looking to cash in on that VA loan at any chance or opportunity.
You can't get into it if it's you have to live in it.
Yeah, you have to live in it. Yes, owner occupied, which is okay. I would totally do it.
At closing, you have to live in it.
Yeah, that's all right. I would definitely do it.
I want to tell people at closing, you have to live in it.
But to pay
after closing,
to be allowed to have 0% down on that, I think as far as within, we talk about our community, African American community, go for 4 years. You're gonna get that piece of America. You're gonna get that piece of pie. 0% down for a loan is huge.
Yeah,
huge. Especially right now, we got interest rates up around 7%.
Now they're coming out mortgages that are 40 years.
Mortgages. Oh my! Do you know? Like that's great.
40 years.
That's great. It's great.
Anyways, the minimum wage.
America. Do it.
Back to the minimum wage. Is decimating the communities of color because teenage boys and girls are not getting jobs. Because why would you hire somebody for $16 an hour, a 17-year-old, instead of hiring someone that's like lost their job and is like 60 saying, I just need a couple hours to, retire at that point. So the minimum wage is decimating people of color from being able to get into the job market at a young age.
I wouldn't say it's decimating people. I feel like
The
it's
numbers
still
show it.
like a foundation, like it's a stepping stone. But it's like you said, you do have old people that hold those positions, taking it away from younger people. But it's because there's not really any employment out here that provides like stability for older people, especially like when you look at the demographics here in Rochester, majority of them don't even have a high school diploma. And most of these jobs require that, like they require that to do environmental services, which is housekeeping, cleaning toilets. They require
It's
a
more
high
than
school
that.
diploma.
It's more than that.
I worked at
But at
Rochester
the city level,
General.
at the city level, for if anyone out there looking for a job, the city's looking to freaking hire.
Yeah.
And they pay well, and you have awesome benefits.
Some
Same thing with the
departments
county.
do.
Anyway, so that
Don't let
okay,
me
so that's
get- don't
one
let
thing
me-
that
don't
came
let
out
me
the budget.
open up the city Department of Environmental Services.
That was one
pocketbook.
part of the budget. Another part is take action to go after illegal marijuana stores.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, y'all gonna start with
Get over that.
triclones on Dewey?
I would love to. I had the mayor there and the chief of police, and they didn't do anything about it.
Yeah, I've been reporting them to the Attorney State General office, and nothing's happening. But
So you're
yeah,
against it?
Yeah, but because I constantly see RPD harassing black dudes for standing on the street selling weed, and these dudes be having less than 3 ounces, which we're legally allowed to have. But then they fail to go a little ways up and go harass those business owners
With the bright lights, with the freaking station wagon,
line
with the freaking
of people.
I'm glad that we agree on that. Make 113,000 more families eligible for childcare.
I think within
How?
They probably lowered the standards for.
Wait, what? What did you just read off?
Make 113,000 more families eligible for childcare.
How are you going to do that?
That's what they did.
I mean, the
In
overall
the entire
cost,
state of New York.
In the entire state. of
the
New York.
entire
And
cost
there's like 10 million people that
of
live here.
child care
So
is crazy.
your taxes are going to go up. That's what it means.
Yeah, crazy off of that bill alone because it costs about $300 a week for one child at a daycare.
Yeah,
That's a fact.
daycare is expensive. Now, I also, man, that's a whole nother conversation because
It's a college tuition right now to put your kid
yes,
through daycare.
absolutely, and they ain't coming out any smarter,
Making people rethink about having them babies.
right?
That's another form of eugenics right
should.
there. Right there, that's eugenics all the way.
The
That daycare bill.
Absolutely, don't have kids. It also bans natural gas in new buildings beginning at the end of 2025.
Ban what?
Natural gas.
Stupid, man. I'm sorry, bro.
So you can't have gas appliances, can't have gas stoves, you can't have gas heating.
And this is for what? Like
This the budget.
an energy thing or
Yeah,
something?
yeah. The green energy, so everything has to be electric.
Listen, when I get my $400,000 house built, I'm having a gas
But yeah,
range.
RG&E is expensive.
Right. And it's only going to go up with electricity because they know what they're doing.
And the agreement that they have with the city, because don't y'all make revenue off of RG&E?
No,
We make everything. We make revenue off of everyone.
you make money. How do I make money off RG&E?
Yeah,
There's
I remember seeing it in the budget.
There's a surcharge in there.
Give you
There's a surcharge
for what?
Yeah, for being within our area.
Oh,
That's why I be telling
It's
people,
small,
look
it's
at your local
what
municipality's budget.
surcharge?
It's a very small. You go look at it.
No. What surcharge within the
Look
bill?
at it. Look at it.
That's like hundreds of dollars.
Right. It goes into New York State. New York State
Hundreds of dollars.
gives it to us.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, so y'all get a back door.
Yeah,
out
we
of
get the back door.
Okay,
That's why they
that
charge
makes
us
sense.
hundreds of dollars for supply and delivery.
Yep.
Even though we utilize such a small amount of electricity.
Well, the customer
Comparative
customer
to
service, you got the
what they
customer
charge
service
us. It's
charge,
crazy.
Yeah.
that flat rate, that $25 now.
Well, do you think that we should take over RG&E?
I would have to think on that more because I mean, y'all have connections with RG&E now, and that's what I feel like caused the surge. Because I remember right before COVID, I had looked at the city budget, and it had projected that. What
You read the
was
city
it?
budget?
Yeah, I be
Good
looking
for
through
you.
it.
That's what's up.
I don't read it like all the way
Yeah,
through,
but that's
did
more
enough.
than 3/4 of the
Yeah.
population.
I be
More
skimming
than that,
through
7/8.
But yeah, they had projected a $2 million like increase in revenue through RG&E, and I'm like, okay, well, the only way RG&E can make this revenue is by going up,
Increasing the cost.
yeah, and
Right.
then lo and behold, next thing you know, I end up with $500,
Weird.
$1,000
Weird, right?
bills and stuff.
But allow
crazy.
the government to take it over. That'd be a lot better.
I mean,
Oh,
it would be poorly funded. However, the Constitution will uphold them to actually like that's the one thing I don't like about privatization is because the Constitution does not obliges y'all to when I say y'all, like not y'all specifically, but like in general, it doesn't oblige them to give us like great quality and stuff. Like it just
No, it's the worst quality.
Yeah.
Name me one thing that the government has taken over in service wise that has it has benefited us in a positive way.
Well, I could say the same thing about privatization because I mean,
No, stop it.
Look at corrections. Look at our prisons.
But that's privatized now. It's because they allow
Everything is being
privatization.
privatized.
Yeah, the
It's the loophole. They get to do all their dirty business without having the red lining of the Constitution to keep them in line.
Because we allow it. Because we allow it.
Because y'all,
Stop
I mean,
allowing
the government, politicians are getting paid. Who else is funding y'all campaigns?
Look at
that
mayoral ball every year, man. That's a lot of money that comes into Rochester.
Did y'all hear about Clarence Thomas and him taking bribes and been taking it for decades?
They weren't bribes. I thought they were.
Oh no, monetary payouts.
He took trips, right? He
took trips, and I from what
his wife took money for her the little organization that she's over on the board or whatever the freak. It was a lot in that.
So she took a donation.
Yeah, but what
that's
would
legal.
What would be the harm?
But that's the incentive. It's like, how can I expect you to provide impartial, unbiased, decision making if you in the pockets of people wealthier than you?
Well, to be fair,
Or the wealthier people are in their pockets.
Yeah. To be fair to Clarence Thomas, when has he shown that he didn't provide that?
That is the other side.
Well, yeah, I mean, in these articles, they're saying that a lot of the legislation that he has passed were presented by the same politicians that has been paying him, saying come on these trips and whatnot.
Yeah, what are we talking about? Like
lobbyists.
What decisions?
Lobbyists?
He was like representative, actually.
I know where he was. I know
the dude's a politician as well that was doing it.
Yeah, it was a Republican that was
they're all in on the same game.
Yeah, I totally understand it. But within the position itself, within him being a Supreme Court judge, when does he show that he doesn't have that, that unbiased approach?
Well, it's the fact that he's obliged to disclose his monetary donations. He wasn't.
Not on that. He wasn't. He wasn't forced to.
He was violating his ethical.
No, he wasn't. He wasn't forced to. He wasn't required to.
Yeah.
And so he didn't.
He didn't. And then he said,
what you're saying though is it is a question of ethics, and that's why like I'm huge on where are your ethics, because even if you're not required to, you should.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with you there, where even if it's not required, he should have said something.
It is required.
It's not required. It wasn't required before.
It wasn't. No.
Now it is.
Yeah, that it was changed by legislation where it was changed. That was like what, the 90s or something? No. Yeah. Yes.
But what they're saying is when it happened was not required by legislation. So when it happened, it wasn't required by legislation, but now it is.
Right.
So it might have happened 20 years ago, but it didn't happen.
It happened like the change happened 30 years ago. And they even said that he was disclosing it at first and then he stopped.
Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I have sometimes
here's my what I'm trying to get at though. Like we're talking about, all right, we're trying to find this smoking gun, right?
Mm-hmm.
And to disprove this man's.
But what's the issue at hand? Like,
that's what I'm trying to figure out. Like, what
is there an issue with his judging?
Yeah, that's the question. It's like, how can, even when it came to
but is there a case,
the overturn of the abortion rights, like
Roe v. Wade,
it's questionable. It's like, well, your decision making could have been influenced by this guy who has been paying for all these trips, donating to your wife's organization, giving you money and all this other stuff.
It's kind of a slippery slope argument. I mean, it could have, yes, but are they directly influenced by that? Like, are they directly involved with that?
You got to prove it.
Well, that's what I'm telling you. You can.
That'd be like
it's a ProPublica article.
If Snickers gave money to a politician and then they voted against something that had nothing to do with Snickers, you could be like, well, you didn't say that you got money from Snickers, so therefore you probably lied about this.
I mean, yeah, but the same thing could be said about our local drug dealers. Yet, I mean, y'all don't give them that grace.
I know. First
you
of all,
see what I'm saying? That's a
don't
lie.
Say y'all. Don't say y'all because
y'all defending these motherfuckers.
Who's defending? Who's defending?
Crooked politicians, because that's a lot of y'all going to bat for them.
Not me. The budget also raises the tax on cigarettes to $5.35, a $1 bump.
Why not go 6?
Why not go 10?
Keep going.
Go all the way.
I mean, what is the goal behind this? The state is already in the red. We'll never get out of the red off of cigarettes.
I feel like our taxes should all be based on consumption. So instead of charging us a income tax, charge us on whenever we spend money to buy something.
That's an attack on capitalism, don't you think?
I think that's an attack on kind of greed, really. Do you need more stuff? Like, I don't need anything
that's
more.
That's to the citizen. That's the
right. But
the
if I don't want to pay
personal
more
choice.
taxes, if I get to say that I'm keeping all of my income, so if I'm making $50 an hour and I work 40 hours, I'm keeping my $2,000.
Now that I can
Right. And you're only
be
you're going to
behind
tax
that.
me on when I buy things. So when I buy gas, when I buy cigarettes, when I buy my bourbon, when I buy airtime, when I pay for my, Austin here, my
Producer.
resident liberal here.
Yeah.
When I pay for him, like those things, if you tax those, that's not even consumption, really, honestly. But internet, when I buy clothing, I'm cool with you increasing because I was in Puerto Rico, it was 13% tax on clothing. I still bought items. It didn't stop me from buying items.
But how do you create the limit though for the government?
Why limit it? There should be a limit. I'm just saying, I'm trying to be like a devil's advocate
within
here.
that, like that kind of.
Yeah, but how much are you paying in income tax in New York State? It's ridiculous amount of money.
I get it. Yeah.
So if they were to say we're going to charge you 15% on everything you buy, every item you buy, besides the necessities, milk, eggs, water,
15 turns
But
to
I
20.
thought the whole point of having
20
like a
turns to
standard.
30.
right?
It's
It's going to constantly increase.
It'll keep going
I
up,
agree.
especially when they know the importance of the necessity.
But
that
Tiara
you
will be
have.
fine because she could live off the land.
Oh,
Yeah, I mean, I could teach people too, but I thought that was the whole point of the standard, where it's like, it's because of the fact that there's people who won't even be able to afford the stuff that they use. So
they will keep all their
accommodates
money.
them. But if you don't have none,
But if you're getting paid by the taxpayers,
how would they get paid by them though?
that's what Social Security is. That's what
look, was it Stryker?
the IRS will get around 670 million.
No, he said,
Oh.
but the Bills will get around 670
The Bills.
million for a new stadium from the state.
That's true.
Yeah, that was fucked
That's
up.
what we're paying
That's
for.
not. Yeah, that's not okay.
That's what we're paying for.
I've said it from the
Let's
beginning.
not
That is
forget
not
about
okay.
that.
Yeah, she said it was like hundreds of billions of dollars going into the state's budget, but when
Well-
it came down to social services, those numbers was barely in the hundreds of thousands.
But she's a
It's never
Democrat.
gonna
She
be-
stands for people that are in need.
That's what I said. They all one and the same. They the same person. It's just they claim to rep a different set. That's it.
It's easier. Is it easier to claim being a Democrat in the city and win?
Mm,
You know the answer is yes.
I don't think
There's
so.
not a single Republican in the city.
No.
Not a
God
single
there
one.
forbid
are
you even-
Republicans in the city. It's just y'all not reaching.
No,
them.
what I mean is there's not a single elected Republican in the city.
No.
There's hardly any running either.
Oh, there are.
Where?
They are very terrible. I'll tell you right now. They're
'Cause
very terrible at
Who
outreach.
ran up against Malik? I thought he was like
Yeah, nobody.
Well, nobody could run
Exactly.
against Malik.
they left it with Lovely, so we were stuck with him.
Well, they knew that within the climate of the Trump era, I'm just being.
You couldn't run Republican
You
at that
couldn't
time.
run
It wasn't going to happen.
Why even waste your time? And even if you come out, they're gonna call you out.
One last thing that the budget will also provide is, what it won't do is ban the sale of flavored tobacco products, including menthol cigarettes.
Hmm.
Because they were going to ban menthol cigarettes, and people were
That's
saying that was
strange.
racist. Was that racist? Do you think?
I don't know. I mean,
It would literally boost up the sales of Senecas.
For real.
Senecas would have went through the
For
roof.
real.
Seneca's a menthol.
Oh well, they got them all.
I don't know.
They got them all over here on the reservation.
Maybe that's based on the assumption that white people smoke Marlboros.
No, a lot of white folks.
Seneca.
Don't Senecas
All
all day.
all day.
all because of the price, though.
Yeah.
Everybody has a res hookup.
One more thing that Hoko does provide is free air conditioning. They're getting free air conditioning.
For who?
I mean, if she want to fund something, they can fund research into gun violence. Niggas keep complaining about gun violence, gun crimes. Ah, my goodness. But then
You know,
You
it's not
got-
really gun violence, right?
what you mean?
It's mental health. Like, I own guns. Not a single one has shot anybody.
I know. I mean, it's the same
Eventually,
thing
we're
where
gonna have to
they
figure that
focus
out.
on gun violence, overlooking the fact that people getting stabbed and, like he said, people getting hit with blunt objects
Right.
and stuff. But they don't pay no attention to that. They pay attention to the gun because of the finality.
What are your position? You're a Marine. What's your position on Second Amendment?
I'm pro Second Amendment. However,
Bang, bang.
I am kind of torn because I feel like when it comes to, and this I'm gonna take a little time because like when it comes to the Second Amendment, like I feel like people should have the the right to bear arms and stuff. However,
Any arms?
any
Hell
any
yeah.
arms.
Hell yeah.
However, I do feel like there should be some kind of education into firearms.
Yes.
And then we also have to accommodate all those services that we have not been doing. Like you said, mental illness, because people overlook the fact when they talk about gun violence, they love to focus on these close proximity killings that happens amongst Black people in metropolitan areas. And they overlook the fact that the bulk of gun violence, like it
Pistols.
consists of white men killing themselves. And it's because the
You said
government.
metropolitan areas, though.
No, but that's what I'm saying. The focus is Black people in metropolitan areas, and they overlook the fact that the bulk of gun violence consists of white men taking their own lives, suicide by a firearm. And
That's
I
not gun
encourage,
violence. We
hold
can't
up,
say that's
I
gun
encourage
violence.
people to even read the book. It's by I'm drawing a blank on it, but I'll send it to you. But that's how I found out about like the Dickey Amendment that exists. Like that was legislation
I have
that
no
was
idea what that
passed. Yeah, it's legislation that was passed, federal legislation that literally bans federal funding into gun violence. Yes. If we have such a gun violence issue, why ban funding into it? Researching.
We do have we can't say that we don't have that issue though. Like we do have an issue with illegal weapons being, purchased.
To what extent though?
Well, to the extent where everybody's getting paid from it, from the federal government, from the state government to the local government. Like I'm not accusing anybody when it comes to that argument. The gun problem, let's go back to the Obama administration and how they were, fast and furious running guns across the Mexican border.
You can't talk junk about Obama.
Well, it's the truth. And then also we have police officers in certain police stations over in California that were also selling weapons that they were seizing out within the community and bringing them across borders. So the problem is within the propaganda that they're using to disarm the folks within the community. I'm all for the Second Amendment, and I'm all for anybody protecting themselves, to protect your inalienable right to walk across this country freely and live freely as you should. No one should infringe upon that. But within you are reporting these inconsistencies, these stories to paint a picture that we are lawless and we need some solution. Right. And the solution to the problem is to eliminate the weapons, more government. That's where we got to be careful when we having these conversations. I totally agree with you that there is a certain focus within our community, and we do know that there are other stories that they're trying to deflect the attention to. Because again, how we were talking about this one show, we were like, the process to purchase a gun, requires a background check, and yet we're having, either the checks,
FBI background check.
Right, FBI background check. So if you know that these individuals are, you're okaying
the
it.
FBI
should know where these weapons are coming from. So we have too many stories and situations within just this country and other countries where we're washing money through Ukraine right now. We're giving them weapons over there.
Allegedly button.
Right. Well, and then going back to the militarization of our police. Well, within the Obama administration, they were the main administration for funding that and giving our law enforcements in every state in this country militarized operating vehicles.
They bought all the bullets.
All of them.
All the bullets in stock.
And then we're going to turn around and throw the whole
hollow points at that.
But you want to fund the police.
They wanted to defund
talking all this corruption, but you
I think we're talking about two different things there.
There's two different, right?
That.
And I'll speak to that point. I do want to fund the police in the right areas that protects the citizens, protect the innocents, the ones who are out there,
good citizens that go to work every single day,
who should not have their cars stolen, who should not have a home invasion, who should not have to deal with that, especially if they are taxpayers and they are paying their money and they're giving their money to support, which is a police department is part of a community service, just like the fire department.
EMT.
We need these people who are willing to put themselves in harm's way. If we look at the numbers of total police officers who are on the force, that number is dwindling. We have very, very, very small numbers of police officers right now. If you compare it to
Yeah, go ahead.
the ratio of police officers to citizens, and I would love to hear your point on it. But what's the perfect number then?
Before you get to that, I'm gonna jump in there and say the ones who have been sworn and have a badge in order to protect us are drastically dwindling. Now, they always say the number of RPD are in 600s, right? But that includes people who are in administrative offices. We only have, I think at this point, 200 something police officers for the entire
and we're gonna
city.
be okay with the robot dogs then, right? We're all right with that, right? We're okay.
It's gonna come to robots and AI and
more
cameras.
surveillance and everything else. Which again, all right, let's have all these problems and then let's pick out the the scapegoat. So the law enforcement sucks at their job, which is the reason for the crime. So our solution though is to have these robotic dogs walk around with the ability to take pictures of everything
and shoot lasers out there.
They could pick up, voices from 100 feet away, and then eventually they'll be able to make the decision on shooting somebody their ability to make a decision. You know what I mean? They'll say the robot has a 99.9% ratio of making the right decisions versus this police officer is only 60%, right? That's the trade-off for us within the community, and I don't like the way that's going. It really doesn't look good for us. Period.
I don't know. When it comes to the police, like I'm with you when it like them selling the stuff back, the corruption. Like I've even seen it. It was a lieutenant. Like I've seen it.
It's
on
in
top
there.
of the corruption exists, and so we're not going to take that away. I'm not going to say
in every
facet of
in every business
of that lifestyle that everybody choose within it, right? There's a cops that they probably came in bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, they're about the job, and then they change within it. They change within.
I mean, that's everybody. Isn't that what happened with city councils? Like y'all go in there all motivated, the next thing you know, you get all beat down and then ready to quit and all that other stuff, or you feel like you
take money from
your direction.
You take money and launder it through an LLC and say you're for the community, and we're not going to bring that up. But again, within just the numbers, the ratio, the people who are out there, and I have
burnout exists everywhere though.
Yeah, I have relatives who are retired police officers. That job, that position created a life, a pension for a family. I will never ever dismiss people who choose that line of work to duty. I hold it parallel to those who look to fight for the country. But if you are a bad apple, if you are out there shooting people for no reason, just for the thrill of it, and it goes to within the military too, within all the atrocities that happened within the Iraq war, within those veterans who went through that, right? There are stories, horror stories. This country is responsible for killing innocent people at weddings with drone strikes. Okay. We are not a country that is free of any type of scrutiny. But when we're talking on a local level, if there is a situation, it should be by a case situation where we have to rely on the system. And if you are a bad cop and you are,
how do you rely on a system that's exhausted?
We hire more to stop it from being exhausted.
Wow.
But
within what's within,
because you say hire more police, so that just increases, that makes the door open to the criminal justice system. So now more people is getting funneled in there, but you got less people in the courts. Have y'all seen the court makeup?
No.
Let's say, hold on. Let's say that we're going to hire more Black and Latinos then to be in law enforcement. Now we're creating wealth for them, right? Generational wealth, because now you have retirement. You can buy a house because you make good income, really good income. Like you said, really good income.
You're bringing folks from the community that understand.
Folks from the community that can relate.
Have y'all ever taken a police test? It's not that easy. I taken that joker and I got a 75, and I assumed at some point these niggas gonna call me because they said that they go down the numbers. But then I come to find out, Like the police is like everything else. It's based on nepotism, who you know. And next thing you know, yes.
No. I can't agree with that.
It's a lot of stuff that is intertwined with that civil service exam. Like
we literally have a minimum amount of people that we're bringing in
America
has to be
racially driven. Everything.
Absolutely. We literally have a minimum amount that we have to pull from the Black and Latino community. They will overlook, let's say Austin hits a freaking 95 on his and Lavelle hits a freaking 84 on his. They will go to Lavelle and hire him first. So you're absolutely right when it comes to racism.
On top of the fact that the average Black person don't have the ability to study for that civil exam, where little white kid from Webster, they got an uncle that probably served in the.
How do we know?
Hold on, because
that's the data.
There's an entire free class for it.
You can say that there's a free class, but how many people know that? Like when I took the test, most people think that like when people see me on social media, they assume that I'm anti-police, and people overlook the fact that when I first started my education journey, like I wanted to be a police, like I went for it and everything. What changed my mother freaking like perspective of joining them niggas was my interactions with them. I kept getting arrested by them, and then every interaction they violate my constitutional rights. Like the first time I was arrested, I don't have no criminal record. Yet my bail bond was set to $100,000 for slapping somebody. Like that's wild. I've never even heard of a person who is accused of murder have a bail bond that high. You see what I'm saying?
You've
but
never heard of
slapping
that?
Somebody, no, I've never heard of it.
Fine, I agree on that slapping thing.
It's probably possible, but I ain't never heard of it. But for me to see that stuff, it's like there are stuff that's set in place and it automatically ostracizes people. It's the same thing when it comes to gun ownership. Like I had my pistol permit since 2016. Most people don't even realize I was stripped of my stuff for almost 2 years because of the New York Safe Act. Do you know about the New York Safe Act?
It's not a good act.
I was because I was charged with menacing with a deadly weapon. They said that if you charge with a violent crime, that's enough.
Was that
no?
Cuomo?
Cuomo. They said being charged with a violent crime is enough to get all your stuff taken. These people sent me a letter, and when I say these people, Monroe County judge, it was like D'Onofrio signed the paperwork saying that I had to turn in not only my pistol and my pistol permit, but every firearm that I owned.
That's like the Red Flag Act.
It goes back
that's what the federal government's doing with the Red Flag Act.
It goes back to what we were saying. The government doesn't want us to own weapons. They don't want us to protect
and when
ourselves.
you Black is even more so.
Well, we all know.
I will agree with that.
Now, to talk to that, to speak to that point, the oppression side of it comes within the propaganda side of it, and also by the folks who are controlling and manipulating the narrative. The last demographic that they wanted to empower was within the African American community, because what they would do is that they would also align with a lot of the folks within the rural communities that also agree and follow those, the Second Amendment rights. They support that. That's a commonality within a group that they found a way to divide throughout just, our history, which is why we have the shit we have right now. We're the victims. We're the ones that's getting shot by the illegal weapons, when really all we need to do is just shift the narrative. Like, yo, gun ownership, protect yourself. We're out right now. We're in a situation where the bad guys have the illegal weapons. The people who are pointing the guns at the community have the weapons. So the solution to the problem is to take your guns with the Safe Act, to make it harder for folks to maintain their right. And you are the law-abiding citizen. That's the game.
And they'll say it to your face, well, you should call the cops.
Yeah.
You tell them what's going to take them 24 hours to get there. Well, you should run away.
They're manipulating.
But it's even more to that, because even when I was going and dealing with my pistol permit hearing, because it took me almost 2 years to get my stuff back. I got it like October of last year. And I got it taken August 2020.
That's crazy.
Yo, my cousin lives down in Georgia.
Hold on, but the judge, and I'll never forget this dude, Thomas Moran, this is when I realized judges, they are partial and they are biased.
Absolutely.
All that other stuff is out the window. But
on both sides.
Yeah, they're on both sides.
That's a fact. But that joker straight up told me, he said that according to your arrest history, I don't have a criminal record. I've never been convicted of a crime. I've been arrested a couple of times, but I ain't never been convicted of a crime. And he said, according to your arrest history, I believe that you did what I am now accused of doing because of what I have been arrested for in the past. And this dude didn't even ask the details. He didn't even look at
that's not right.
You see what I'm saying? But he's already making a judgment. And this is a 65-year-old white man standing before, at the time I was 27, 28, 29. Now I'm 30. Like I literally been dealing with this system since I was 27 and I'm 31 this year.
That sucks.
You
That
see?
really does suck.
They don't want you to own a gun.
No.
You know what I don't want people to own in a city?
What?
An ATV.
Where they gonna go?
In the
I don't know.
boonies where they
How they
belong.
gonna get out there? They gonna
With a
ride their
trailer.
They
ATV
can
With a
find
on the
trailer.
highway?
With a trailer.
They can find a way.
Who gonna? Most people that live in the city can only afford a sedan. What they gonna?
Man,
They
most of them
shouldn't
are trying to
have an
do-
ATV then.
Listen, I'm
An
sorry,
ATV
bro.
is easier to acquire than a vehicle.
But I'm not about to make
it's
them
illegal.
some damn victim
It's
of
oh my goodness, it's
of
illegal
oppression
because of the fact that we are in a metropolitan area.
Yes.
That law is biased in itself. And honestly, I feel
Against
like
who?
people
Against
should.
who though?
I feel like people should sue and take it to the Supreme Court so they could rule on the efficiency of that law, because I feel like that law is biased in the sense of that it literally only exists in metropolitan areas. You won't find
Yes.
a law like that in the rural area.
Nope.
Not even a town, not even a suburb.
No.
And they're slowly becoming
because
city.
they're not blocking
city-like.
red light traffic.
Yeah.
They're not
No.
killing little
You can't
kids.
strategically the law is supposed to be broad. It's not supposed
It
to
is broad, the
strategically
entire city.
Exactly. It literally narrows it down to the city.
Absolutely. That's where we have the problem.
What about peace
That-
of mind?
mm-mm.
What about
Quality of life?
Yeah,
No.
quality life. Yeah,
What
like,
about the
And
ATV
then
riders that are
when you
diving
look
into vehicles, and whose insurance is going to pay for that?
So with all that funding that y'all keep dumping to the
Who's
police,
y'all? Who's y'all?
you, the city council,
Stop it right
the
now.
mayor, y'all, it was only 3 people that voted not to fund RPD. You was one of the people that voted to fund them. So
course.
you were part of that,
Hell
y'all.
yeah.
That same
'Cause
money
my
that y'all
family
decided
wants
to dump
law,
into RPD, y'all could have
discipline.
put into creating something like a park where these people could ride to. Because
Where in your
the average
neighborhood?
person,
you want it in your
they're
neighborhood?
not gonna.
why is
Okay.
it? Why
You
would
know
You
you don't want it in your
don't want
neighborhood.
solutions. You just
Hold on,
want.
hold on.
You
Where?
just want
Where?
to
Fine, I do want a solution. Where do you want it?
or
Where do you want it?
control people.
No, where do you want it?
I don't know where to put it. I mean, honestly,
Where
what is it?
neighbors
The
are not
Mount
gonna
Reed
complain about-
area. That's a whole. Bust out one of them buildings that's just sitting there.
You know, that's where they were before. That
Yeah.
not to get angry about this.
there's all
That's
types
where
of.
they were before, where they were riding freely. Nobody fucked with them. Nobody messed with them at all. They were able to ride up and down the street, which was in the Mount Reed driving park area. Nobody messed with them at all. It was until they came into the main streets and wanted to block traffic, go through red lights, shoot up boats that people were pulling behind them. Like it's the havoc that they cause is the problem.
So what you gonna do with motorcyclists? I mean, in the state of New York,
They're
there's no
legal.
such
They're
like
legal.
it's illegal to lane share, but it's not uncommon to see motorcyclists pull up right next to you in your lane and
Yep.
pass you.
Yes, that is very legal. You know,
No, it's not. It's
is. No,
illegal
it's
in
legal.
New York.
But the
it's
big thing
ill.
is, number one, they're insured and they're
Shane Laren
licensed.
is illegal here.
Insured and licensed. You can't do that with an ATV because it's not a legal vehicle to be on the main
your
roads.
problem is you can't make $1 off of it.
Not me. That's not my problem. My
I mean,
problem
y'all
is-
connected anyways.
who's connected?
Y'all getting paid off RG&E, bro.
I am
And
not
then
getting
we
paid off
expect y'all to
RG&E.
govern them,
I
like
live in
cause some
freaking.
oversight.
You know how much we make?
Who?
City council.
No.
I live in poverty. All right.
Well, I mean, it's a civil job. I honestly don't think y'all should be paid. You know, you should. It's like preaching. You shouldn't be getting paid to do a service for people.
I don't disagree. I'm not complaining about it either. What I'm saying is that if someone's in my pocket that's giving me money,
Mhm.
it ain't my pocket because I'm not making no money. I didn't make money off of this legislation that I wrote. I'm saying that I spoke for the community and the community said, we don't want this. You're saying that you speak for you.
You don't speak for the community. You just speak.
How so?
You speak for that small fraction that
Small
interacts
fraction?
with y'all. Yes,
The
because
small
I'm telling you,
fraction?
when you talk to the community, a lot of people would. It's those people that's not voting. Like homie said, it was what over 90% of black vote, or he said black people that voted for Biden. When in fact it's over 90% of black voters
Like
that
voters. I didn't
voted
say-
for
no, I didn't
Biden.
say black
Well,
people. I meant voters.
But when you look at the amount of people, like that's one of the flaws when it comes to data anyways, is that it's not exhaustive. Like when you say I speak for the community, I've never even been reached out to about this ATV thing. And I'm on the opposite side of that. If you reached out to me, I would have said, hell no, go the other way. Like,
Right. And I honestly would have been like, you're in the very vast minority because I go to almost every single community association meeting.
Mhm.
Are you involved with your community association?
I'm not, no.
All
I
right.
don't-
Well, the community association said that they want this law and they speak for the community.
but they don't speak for, that's an
Why not?
association. That's like saying
That's a group of citizens that
lobbyists
live
speaks
together.
for the community.
No,
You
because
as
they
a
don't pay.
politician speak for the community.
I
You
do.
as a human being are you are prone to biases
Absolutely,
and your
I
own
agree.
prejudices.
I agree.
So your own ideologies is always going to come into play. You could care less about the community. It's what benefits
I can care less about
Jose
the community.
Pio.
Stop. Don't put that into anyone's heads right there, because I guarantee you're
No, that's I
you're
feel
definitely
like that
wrong
with
about that.
everybody. It's even the same way with me. Like the way I'm biased towards poor people because of the love that I have for them.
Well,
So
do me a favor. I will bring you to every community association, and I'll bring you onto the streets of people who are locked away in their houses because they're afraid to come outside.
and how do you even reach out to these people? Because when I moved there,
I have an app.
I know that it's
have an
like
app.
Maplewood or
An app.
something association.
I'm the only politician in the world that has his own app.
No, I'm talking
You
about
don't
this
have it?
association thing.
No, I can literally send out an alert right now on my app saying, this is what I'm doing. Do you agree with it or not? You don't have the app?
No, I don't even know what app you're talking about.
You can just download Jose Pio. Go to your app store. Jose Pio. I'm the only politician in the world with his own app. I literally talk to my constituents directly. And I say, and people will say, oh, well, not everyone has a smartphone. I mean, kind of. Everyone
They
does.
don't. And not every app is interactive with all types of phones.
Download the app. I send out alerts.
But you said that every community, like every area, has its own association.
Absolutely.
If that
And
association
business
exists,
association.
then Maplewood, why I don't see Maplewood Association in Maplewood reaching out to the people that live over there? Because
That
when
is
I
a
talk
problem.
to
I'll tell you
people,
why.
but they speak for the community.
I can tell you why.
But they speak for the community.
No, absolutely.
That's wild.
Devin is the vice
How you
president.
speak for people you don't interact with?
Devin is the vice president.
Who is Devin?
He's brothers and sisters.
That's you falling under psychopath because now you just name dropping. I don't know these people.
You don't know brothers and sisters.
Mm-mm.
The
Is
hair
that
salon, the barbershop on McGee and Dewey.
the thing ran by the
Yeah, with the nonprofit where they give out food.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know you do.
They link with CGI or something like that.
Well, I mean, there's different associations that come into Dewey Avenue, but I can guarantee at least 75% of the people who live in the Northwest are against ATVs and dirt bikes.
I don't see why they wouldn't be. I don't.
Right.
I don't.
I think most common
So
people
I
would be
don't-
against it.
No.
I gotta say, like I
Maybe
haven't
the people that
heard,
look like you.
The
like-
resident liberal.
so I don't live. I haven't interacted with these ATVs at all, but like I haven't heard a like logical defense in favor of the ATVs.
Mhm.
Like why should we not ban them
Regulate
and regulate it? Yeah.
Well, like I said, for one, it's the fact that if you're gonna make it a law here, then it should extend other
Well,
places.
But we
So,
can't.
like,
No, so-
hold on.
though.
So I'm
We can't.
explaining.
Yeah.
So the defense to it is, like I said, is that it's too bias driven because the law specifically focused on the metropolitan area,
Yes.
which when you look at the
Well-
demographics of the metropolitan area, what is it? Predominantly what?
Yeah, but the city
But
is
hold-
voted in by the city residents.
Now-
That's why we can
but-
only control the city.
Can I ask
Or
you,
legislate the city.
Traffic laws, like traffic patterns, are they not different in metropolitan areas than rural areas?
I'm not sure. I live in
You've never
Rochester. I don't
driven
live in
through it?
Webster currently.
Have you driven through a rural area? Have you driven through a
That's
suburban area?
gaslighting right there.
It's not gaslight. It's legit.
It was.
But if you go to Bergen, you know you can go to a bar on your snowmobile in the wintertime.
Yeah, like have
I
you
mean-
ever
Or your
been to
ATV.
Wayne County?
I was told that people who've been in my predicament before with their weapon, white, ain't never go through the stuff that I went through. So again,
Maybe.
yes,
You might be
you
right.
just said it. I said, where do you see this law? Does the law exist in Webster? But y'all
No,
still have
but-
driving laws over there, right? Traffic laws and all
but
that stuff.
traffic patterns are different in suburbs and rural areas. Like,
Yeah,
so
but
there should be
you
different
said-
laws.
No, you said laws. Okay, so even if you take into consideration traffic patterns, it still does not. You can't tell a person they cannot have this because they refuse to build an infrastructure to accommodate it.
But the
like,
infrastructure
You can't
drives
say
the
that.
laws.
You can't say that the driving patterns it conflicts with the
Yeah.
driving patterns, but then you don't create something that works with it because you know
Yeah,
what else
no,
conflicts with
but-
the driving patterns? Pedestrians crossing the street.
Right.
A lot of
Yeah, and so
a lot of
pede- and
pedestrians
so
is getting
the-
ran over
By ATVs.
by
Yeah, but-
vehicles that are
Sure, and
registered with
vehicles.
New York State
But
DMV.
that's
I
why
got the
there's-
article shared by
there's-
Mary Lupian and
Uh-huh.
Rachel Bernhardt.
That's why there's
That's
more.
great.
but
Hold on,
that-
let me
yeah,
stop
that's
it right
great.
there because
Yeah.
those were the two people who said they wanted the park for the ATVs and dirt bikes. And I said, okay, if you want it in your district, because they share the same district.
But why are you fighting district when it all falls
Because-
under the same city?
No, because the district is broken into 4 districts. So the Northwest district is my district.
But they don't look at data like that. When a crime occurs, they don't say
yes,
here.
we do.
It occurred in the Maplewood district. They say
Yes, we do.
Rochester.
No, they don't.
Yes, they do. This
I'm
is
telling you,
why
you can go to the
people
crime data
have
portal.
this high perception of crime in the city of Rochester versus Webster. I mean, people overlook the fact that when it comes to property crimes are actually higher outside of the city. But people keep saying that crimes are higher in the metropolitan
There's
area.
no way.
Yes,
no
I
way
got the
believe
research.
that.
I mean, you could disagree, but I have the research to back it. Everything that I say, I hold to it, but that junk is backed by research. I will show it to you, my brother. It is saved on my Google Docs.
Please do.
In the book that I was talking about when it came to
hold up per capita. You might be talking per capita.
Yeah, we have a higher resident citizen
Concentration
residency than the surrounding areas. And I'm not
I think you're talking per capita.
Higher what?
We have more citizens within the city of Rochester than they do.
It's a city, duh.
Right. So we're gonna have more of that overall than the other areas. Now, I'm not saying it doesn't happen. I'm not saying that we shouldn't talk about it, but why does it seem as though we're making so many excuses? Like, if there's a problem here, but you're not talking about it over there, it's a problem over there, it's a problem over there. Why are you picking on us when it is actually happening though? Like, I totally get where you're coming from.
Because I lived in Avon, New York. I lived in East Rochester. I lived in Henrietta. And the same people that y'all sit here and talk about, they not complaining. There were several people that complained about ATV drivers running over the grass fields and people's property and stuff, but nothing happens out there. Why? Because it's not heavily monitored by government like the city.
Hold on. If you lived in Avon, you would never call it Avon.
One, I'm from motherfucking Rochester and our cultures are different. That's a white man mentality. Now that's gaslighting.
No, but
over here correcting the language, and you and I wouldn't even say that to somebody with an accent.
You can't say that.
That's like me telling your great grandma she said Rochester wrong. If she has a Latin accent.
It'd be like, I lived in Charlotte my entire life and I called Denise Road Denise. No, you didn't. You didn't live in Charlotte your entire life. Then you know it's Denise.
I didn't say I lived there my entire life. I said I lived in Avon.
You know what the vernacular.
I'm born and raised in Rochester. I lived at Avon.
And you want ATVs and dirt bikes.
Yes, they should be allowed to be used here. No, in the city as a whole, not just my neighborhood. The city as a whole.
So regardless if there's 100 of them blocking traffic and going through red lights, and they're not legally able to drive, they don't have a license, they're not registered, they have no insurance. You're cool with it.
So.
Or are you cool with registering them?
If
licensing?
You want to govern it, then actually regulate it, but provide something. You can't just say can't do it and you have to go somewhere else.
You can ride a dirt bike in the city of Rochester if it's licensed and you have a motorcycle. I'm sorry, if you have a motorcycle license and it's insured and registered, you can ride a dirt bike. You can ride an ATV.
The same people that's disproportionately being incarcerated for unpaid traffic violations. Like, it's crazy. I could keep on going because look at the DMV numbers. Look at those numbers. There's way too many people who can't afford. You telling people to go get your vehicle registered. How are they going to get their vehicle registered? There's so many people out here with suspended license, revoked licenses.
Because they broke the law.
Sitting in jail, Monroe County jail for traffic violations.
Because they broke the law.
Because of unpaid tickets.
Because they broke the law too many times.
Tickets.
Too many times.
Not a violent crime.
Maybe not a violent crime. But I also want to know who these names are of people who are sitting in jail for unpaid ticket crimes when we have people who are stealing cars and breaking into businesses.
It's also illegal to turn on a right turn without stopping completely. You're supposed to treat a red light like a stop sign. How many times have you ran a red light?
Never.
I always stop at the.
But you ain't sitting in no Monroe County jail for it.
No, I always stop at.
You don't always
stop
at nothing.
Yeah, well,
and any person who drank, you have at one point driven, got behind your vehicle with intoxic or with alcohol in your system.
They changed the law.
Every single one of us has committed a crime. How many of y'all smoked weed? How many of y'all? You look like you smoke weed.
I don't.
Weed is legal. I smoke weed. That's not the point,
I bet you were smoking it before it became legal 2-3 years.
I sure did.
But you ain't sitting in jail or prison.
No, I'm not. But
we shouldn't be sitting in jail and prison for non-violent offenses.
Regardless, if you do
look at the Monroe County data or the Monroe County jail census, there's several people
nobody in jail for smoking weed.
For possession.
There's nobody in jail for possession either.
Yes, it is.
With intent to sale?
You got to look at it before you
intent to sale?
Yeah, well,
it's different.
that's based on interpretation. How are you going to say somebody's intention is to sell? You don't know nobody's intentions. That's why y'all can't even, when I say y'all, the government can't even prove when they try to convict people for murder, you can't prove intent because you don't know somebody's mind.
You can't prove intent.
No.
That's how they get in jail.
No. They lower the
They
offense
have to
because
have
you
intent.
can't, it's mens rea that you have to have some type of mentality, but you cannot prove that they physically intended to do this.
That's homicide in the first versus homicide in the second.
But
and
I'm
third.
saying, like, you can't prove intent. That's all I'm saying. Are y'all done?
I really have no idea where the argument went.
Because we went off the ATV dirt pack right here.
It just went like 20 different places.
Again,
I don't know. Is there a such thing called law and order chaos? Like, where do you stand as far as that? Like, there should there be any type of order? Should there be a response to the chaos that's going on right now?
Of course, there should be some kind of order, but again, you cannot make up decisions that just says you can't do this and don't provide something else that they can do. Sitting here telling people that register your vehicle and then you can use this when it's intended as a recreational vehicle, just provide them a park. We don't even have skate parks anymore. And that was like a big thing when I was growing up. Okay.
We do.
Okay.
They built
we have a skate park in Lyle Avenue and we have an actual skate park that's outdoor underneath the interloop. We did though. And it wasn't us that did it. They raised their own money. And I said the same thing to the ATV and dirt bike riders. But hold on. But I said the same thing to them. I said, if you guys raise the money, I'll help you find the land for it.
Well, you're telling poor people to raise the money.
You're telling me that you couldn't believe in God and saying that the money's going to come.
You can raise it for them.
How poor
you're supposed to be a man of God. The Bible said it's better to give than to receive.
I'm not going to do that though.
Stop. Time out.
Mary and Rachel can.
Hold on, bro. Hold on.
Maybe they will.
Hold on, please. Poor people. First of all, you're not too poor if you can afford an ATV, and also you're paying for the gas to ride that damn thing. This like, can we?
You just making assumptions.
No, it's not. How are they paying for it? Okay, how are they paying for it?
So your mom wasn't poor when she paid for your clothing. When you growing up for school, your mom still wasn't poor. Like, just because you paying for something doesn't mean you not poor.
So what constitutes being poor? What makes them poor?
What metric?
Yeah. What makes them poor?
I mean, that's a gaslight.
Well, I don't have.
No, it's not. It's a direct question. It's a direct question
by the government.
I just asked the
do you have
question
an ATV?
again. No, I don't.
But
what I'm saying though again is to the question, to get to the point of the ATV and be able to drive it.
But you have a vehicle. You drove here, right?
Because I'm a law-abiding citizen.
And most of the people that driving them things are kids, and they don't have no vehicle.
And they should not be riding on our streets because it's illegal. They shouldn't be riding legal vehicles on these streets.
Make it okay. Their circumstances does not make it okay for them to make decisions that they
I'm not saying that their circumstances make it okay. It's like he said to come up with the money yourself to fix your own problem.
How many ATVs
How do you tell poor people to do that? Like, we've been doing that and nothing has fixed itself. That's like telling homeless people get a job, yet we still have a homeless problem.
Stryker say he didn't have a $5,000 or $6,000 ATV?
No, $5,000 ATV.
Yeah. So
who is Stryker? Is he a white man too?
That's a very good quote.
If you're affluent background,
if you're poor, you don't need an ATV because that's a liability.
How are you going to tell a poor person what they don't need? That's like people telling people who got food stamps that they shouldn't be buying seafood with it. How are you going to tell people what to do with their money?
Seafood's legal.
It's not.
It doesn't matter. You can't pick and choose. You're just moving the goalposts at this point.
I mean, the solution to a lot of these problems is the government to create some sort of program or some sort of solution that's, again, it's not coming from them, the politicians, it's coming from us, the taxpayers. So at the end of the day, we are the one that foot the bill. At the end of the day, we are the one that's to come up with the solutions for folks who, if they are poor, right, they're either not judging or not trying to say that this is what their circumstances are. If they do come from a family that has the money to support their ATV addiction and allow them to do what they do, that's on that parent, etc. But if there's someone who is poor, who is not putting into that system or within paying taxes within this society so that we can pay for these parks and different types of solutions for them, we're the ones that end up paying at the end of the day. So, like, where does the accountability come on the individual itself and not look to the government for every single solution that's going to end up costing us more money in the end?
I mean, who is it costing money, though? Because, and I'll tell you this, I watched you guys' podcast from last week, and you was sitting there saying that as a real estate person, as a person, a business owner, that you strive for this because of the fact that there's these tax breaks that's linked to it, that you pay less in taxes. So when you sit here and talk about we paying taxes, when I look at taxes, like the data, it shows that the bulk of taxes are literally covered by single people. It's covered by poor people.
But do you understand how they work, though?
The people that's getting tax breaks, the people paying less in taxes are who? The rich, the people that has the ability. It's you corporation, you business owners.
Yeah, so while you
when
pointing
you
that
sit
finger,
here,
do you understand how it
when you
works,
sit here and say we pay, we ain't paying nothing. It's the poor people. It's always the poor people. It's the same people. You sit here and say, because you also said in that video or in that same podcast, oh, go out and buy a house.
Yes.
You tell poor people to go and buy a house, knowing good as well they're going to get stuck with higher interest rates than you would as a person with money.
True.
Yes.
That's not true. That's not how it
poor people
works.
are always.
That's not how it works. That's not how it works.
And the hypocrisy
and
is
I'm
crazy.
not going to allow misinformation, pretty much put me in a box that I'm not in.
It's not misinformation.
Yes, it is.
It doesn't have to apply to you, but it exists.
No, but what you said is inaccurate, though. That's all I'm saying. And
so
how is
it inaccurate?
Because it is. It's 100% inaccurate.
What interest do you pay on houses that you buy? If you were to buy a house right now with private money, what interest do you pay?
Well, the interest you're going to pay is to the bank or people you're borrowing the money from.
How
That's
much?
where the interest.
About 12, 15%?
Oh, for me?
Yeah.
Oh, well, private money, 10 to 12%.
Right. Is that lower than your interest rate?
You're probably paying what? 5%, 4% within the loan you got?
I'm paying 3.25.
It's about where yours at.
Yeah, he's paying 3 times.
Yeah. So within,
I mean, again, you love to focus on outliers. Exception of the rule exists.
This is not an exception of the rule. It's how it is when you get into it.
You said it in the last podcast. You said this is what it is. Like you said, people should pull themselves up by their bootstrap. You said that poor people should just pay for their own part. Come up, fund the money, get the money together.
Hold on, I didn't say poor people.
Yes, you said, or link up with Mary.
If you want
and
if you want something,
and Rachel, link up with them, but do it yourself. But how do you tell people to do these things? They need the city. That's the whole point of the government.
No, they don't.
That's the whole point of the government.
No, they don't.
Yes, it is.
That's not the point of the government.
The whole point is to, yes, it is. It's to ensure that people have equal access to things. Yes. This, okay. So we're just gonna act like
because what you're talking about is not
Brown v. Board of Education versus Brown. That was literally to ensure that everybody had equal access to education. That's literally your job.
Yeah, we still don't have it.
People fought up against that.
We still don't have it.
We don't, but that's the whole point. That's what I'm saying.
But you see what we can
ensure that everyone has an equal playing field.
Right, but you can absolutely equal playing field. And I agree that the city school district is not equal with the surrounding suburbs. I completely agree with that. But I cannot agree what I cannot agree with is the fact that people who are riding on the streets who have not registered the vehicle, have not insured the vehicle, and don't have a license to drive their vehicle should be okay to drive, and or the taxpayer should build a park for them to be able to ride. Who's going to pay for the insurance for that? If someone gets hurt, who pays for that? We pay for that. All the taxpayers pay for that.
I mean, y'all have no problem funding the police.
But they don't want the dirt park. They want to ride in the streets.
What's the return of what's the return on the city's investment by having that situation? The return.
I mean, for one, car accidents and well, not car accidents, but vehicle crashes and stuff. I mean, according to you, you said that all these accidents is coming from ATV people. So you put them in a park. You put them in a park. This reduces these accidents.
What I'm saying is, actually, a majority of car accidents are happening by people who don't have licenses, or are too young for a license, or are illegal to drive.
But then homie over here said it was the infrastructure, the patterns of the street. But then the way that the streets are set up, well, hold on, but even because the laws are based on the patterns, that's what he said.
Yeah.
But even the way that the patterns are set up currently, there's people getting into accidents because of how it is set up. And these people have registered vehicles. Like you can't,
but these are,
regardless of how you feel about Rachel or Mary, you can't take away from the fact that these accidents are happening. Like that's why they're pushing to restructure the infrastructure of Dewey Avenue. Like I live over there. People are constantly 60 miles an hour plus all up and down.
Are you okay with that or no? Shouldn't they be allowed to?
I feel like if it's do whatever necessary that is going to help the people stay safe, but at the same time is not a hindrance to everybody. You cannot come up with a one-sided solution that ends up hindering.
Speed limit is a hindrance.
No.
Red lights are a hindrance.
I mean, okay, so I need
so is getting a license.
word.
Yeah. So is when you turn 16, you can get a license. That's a hindrance. Like you have to.
I mean,
you have
technically we don't need these things, but y'all,
but it's also not
the
a right.
government people set these things up as a safety measure. Like if it was
I
left
agree with
up to
safety
me,
measures.
I don't think that it should be required to have or to get a pistol permit. Like I feel like it should be like Arizona. I should just be walking around here. I don't have to carry, conceal,
Florida?
nothing.
I'm with that.
I don't
But-
disagree.
I'm with that.
You got people sitting here saying, well, for safety measures or for the safety of other people who minded your motherfucking business, we
No,
don't
no,
want them seeing your firearms and losing their
But
mind.
if we're talking about everyone shooting each other, then we want to have people who understand how to use a gun,
But we
operate a
just
gun, and
assume
legally
that.
have one.
I
Yeah,
get what
absolutely.
you're saying though.
Absolutely. But I want to make sure you understand. I don't want you to understand my part of it. I want you to
Mhm.
understand that there's a whole plethora of people out there who are not okay with that. They don't want 14-year-olds riding ATVs on the main roads. They don't want that.
Mm.
And I think you don't want that either.
I think the
do.
worst
I
part.
I've been trying to convince my wife to allow me to buy an ATV so I could go join them riding up and down Dewey.
I'm gonna
good luck
join.
on
I'm
that.
gonna join RPD and arresting you then.
Good luck on that
Well,
one. Well, when it comes
Ask
to
them about it.
They'll just
Yeah.
take the ATV.
I got Jesus with me. Them niggas ain't taking
Jay-
squat. Them niggas ain't taking squat. You hear me?
I
They
do
thought that they
love-
was gonna convict me and take my pistol, and what the
Yeah.
God did? Give it right back. No
That was-
conviction.
That was okay. We'll go with that. I
They
love
can't
that.
touch me.
If God be for you,
No man can go. I'm telling you, no man can stand against me. That's the word.
I think Austin, your take on God's ability to
what's the Satanist take on?
I'm an atheist.
Oh,
not a
okay,
Satanist.
gotcha.
That's the difference.
Oh Lord.
do you think
Yeah.
God
Did
Did you feel the heat of Satan emanating
No.
from it?
I mean, no. Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything. To say.
Yeah, thanks for your input there. I really, first of all, I want to appreciate you coming on and really
Thank you for
being
having me.
very vocal about everything, because I appreciate anyone who's willing to come on a podcast, show up to speak to council, air exactly what they feel about things, because I feel like nowadays people are too afraid
Mhm.
to stand up for what they really want and to push for how can we get it done.
Mhm.
I think that's like the missing piece of it. So if there's things that you want to get done, I'm for it. Download my app. Let me know exactly when you want to get done.
Yo,
Great
Gino
marketer.
said your app said you were in Ireland
You
right now.
only got like 7 months left of me. I'm done after this year.
Yeah, we're gonna
Um,
be screwed when you're done. Just so
I
you
don't
know.
think so. You won't be screwed.
we won't have a balance. There will be no balance whatsoever. Everything will be just according to what the folks that all agree on everything right now. I mean, it's going to be open season. We're going to have we already have a majority right now. So we're going to have a majority in city council. We're going to have a majority in Monroe County. We're going to have a majority in state. And now within whatever is about to happen, however, the citizens continue to lose their faith in whatever is going on up at the top. Whatever comes next, it's not going to be fun.
If it's Biden versus Trump
Mm.
in 2024 and there's no third party, who would you vote for?
Jesus. I could write it there.
Jesus.
You wouldn't even vote for either one of them?
No,
right in.
I didn't vote for none
I
of
think we
them
should all
last
write
time.
ourselves in as president.
I'm telling you.
The
You better
entire-
off doing that.
I'm voting Austin.
Every-
I'm voting Austin all
Every
day.
American write their name in.
I accept your nomination.
You're
I'm
welcome.
going for it.
You
I'm
better
voting.
off doing that.
I would totally vote for Austin for president.
You heard it here first. Although I can't do it 2024. I'm only 30. You gotta be 35.
Oh, you're
So
not.
See,
So
you could have been
Next
president.
election,
2028.
and we
So-
are going to run on your atheist.
Yeah. wrong with it.
Oh, let's do it.
It'll
Let's
be
do it.
perfect because
ready to go.
So you
the entire-
you could be 85 running for president, but you can't be 35. I'm
Yeah.
sorry, you can't be 30.
That's
you
wild.
can't be there.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Nuts.
I'm not even gonna get into that other topic of the fact that the Democrats can't push anyone of any kind of mental
Yo, where'd you
capacity.
get this grandma thing though? From,
That
bro?
was a fan of our podcast,
He
made
said
that for me.
grandma.
Oh,
Yeah, way
okay.
to go, Dick. Way to go, Dick.
It's nice. Thank you.
My grandma worked really hard on that. Okay.
Oh,
What a jerk.
appreciate it.
Stan, don't listen to him. Don't listen. It was a guy. It was a guy
Oh,
that's in a
oh.
sewing group.
Oh, it's nice.
A black man that's in a sewing group that brought us that.
Putting down the brothers.
Right. Black
I would
on black.
never do that.
Black on black crime right there. Again, I
Oh, man.
appreciate Sarah very much for coming in and for being vocal on everything you do. We need more like you. Maybe not with the same mentality. No, I'm just joking.
I'll
I
take it.
appreciate it very
The Marine
much.
Corps couldn't handle it either.
Yeah, that's cool.
Mm.
Thank you again for coming on, and hopefully people got something out of this to at least see that people can have a conversation about things.
That's a fact.
Listen,
We
as
may not
long
agree,
as we
but-
all stand on the same side when China comes through.
Yeah, I'm not.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not
As
getting
long
that.
as we know who to shoot when China comes through, that's all I care about.
They're gonna care about those legal gun owners at that point.
Yeah, yeah. They want to disarm
They're
us
gonna care
quick.
about the illegal gun owners.
Yeah,
Mhm.
they should learn how to shoot
Right.
because they're not very good.
We
in the
got some
city.
legal ones that don't know how to shoot. Trust me.
That's true.
That's a
true.
fact.
Are you yawning?
She.
Yeah. Yeah, you're welcome, Gino. It was right on time. Hey, Gino, we gotta have a conversation. You know, my daughter wants to work for Wegmans. If you're still there. you gotta
Oh,
check.
and Stryker wants us on his podcast. He lives in Ogden, though.
Ogden, I'm with it.
They probably have ATVs out there,
They probably do.
and they're
Let's get
legal.
on
with
them.
no
Yeah.
restrictions.
You want to go
There's
out there?
so
You want to go
much
out there with us?
land, though.
Shit.
I would, yes,
Hold on,
listen.
Tiara, you want to come out there with
I
us?
am, so I could call out all the
Got you, brother.
disparities.
Thank you.
Disparities.
Yeah, absolutely, yo. Like, I don't care. Go out and go right out there. Go right out in the boondocks. Do
Yeah,
what you
they don't
gotta
care
do.
about it at all. Go out there.
They're
Right
used
there.
to it. That's their
Yeah.
lifestyle. Like,
That's how they go to the
how
bar.
they live.
That's literally how they go to the bar.
I
right.
believe it.
But here, I mean, to hear, we have horror stories. We got 12-year-olds getting hit and run over, and they shouldn't be on them things like that. Unless they're in like there should be like competitions, yo.
They should just get a golf cart, get
Yo.
a license, get it registered,
You said a
get it
golf cart.
insured, and I'd be cool
Well,
with that.
there was this one young black kid that was in like the little ATV
This close to
races,
ending it.
and he's like
I know.
the Jordan of the sport, right? Like
Of what?
of the ATV dirt bike race, like Excite Bike. Remember that video game?
I do remember
That
Excite
was-
Bike.
that
That
was
was
the
not an
crazy
ATV.
game.
Hell yeah.
But
I can kill him. That she
I
don't
mean,
even
that
know.
game
He's
is
too young for that.
still
Yeah,
top
let's-
five.
Let's all play. Let's do a let's play of Excite Bike.
Oh, I'm
Get
with
that
it.
going.
I'm with it.
I
But-
hate when I scroll through TikTok and it's people playing video games.
Oh, I'm watching.
Oh no, I
I'm
hate
watching
it.
old school
All right,
ones.
Let's get another show going. Jose plays video games. So let's
There might
put it up.
potentially be a change coming with the podcast.
Ooh,
We'll
It's
figure
still
it
up in
out.
the air. We'll see what happens,
see what happens.
but there might be a change coming. And if you're looking to potentially have your own podcast, let me know.
Okay. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Austin, hit that funky music.
I don't think it's funky.